After sending Athena off with the Kine, I returned to the throne of the fortress of the underworld. Soon, Perseus would fulfill his destiny by slaying Medusa and cementing his place as a hero of legend. The threads of fate were already weaving his story. Thanatos, I called to the god of death, whose black wings shimmered faintly in the dim light of my hall. Send one of your shadows ahead to Medusa's location. Thanatos tilted his head, his expression unreadable. Is it time already? Very well. With a wave of his hand, a shadow dissipated into the air, streaking toward the mortal realm. Medusa's soul would soon descend to the underworld, her fate sealed as decreed by the Moirai. As I sat upon the obsidian throne, contemplating the tragic tale of Medusa, Styx, the goddess of the unbreakable oath, approached. Hades, she said, her voice carrying a rare note of curiosity. Let's watch Perseus. His journey is being closely observed by many gods. I shook my head. I have more pressing matters to attend to. Styx smirked. Don't be so dour. It's not every day you get to witness the making of a hero. Humor me? Reluctantly, I allowed myself to divert my gaze to the mortal world. Perseus's tale was, after all, intertwined with divine machinations. Perseus stood before the darkened cave where Medusa, the mortal Gorgon, lay in wait. He took a deep breath, steadying himself as his hand tightened around the hilt of Ares' sword. His heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination. He recalled the god's guidance that had brought him here. Perseus, Athena had said, her tone firm but encouraging. The gods favor you. You carry our blessings into battle. The winged Hermes had added with a playful smile, and don't forget to use our gifts wisely. My sandals, Athena's shield, Ares' sword, and the helm of Hades. They will see you through. Grateful yet overwhelmed, Perseus had bowed. I will honor the gods. Thank you. Athena's final instructions echoed in his mind. Seek the Graii. They will guide you to Medusa, though they guard their knowledge jealously. Be clever, Perseus. Indeed, Perseus had proven his cunning when he stole the single shared eye of the Graii. Their shrieks still rang in his ears. Medusa lives west of here, on an island. They had relented. Her venomous snakes have triangular heads. Beware. She is the only mortal among the Gorgon sisters. Now, standing at the cave's mouth, Perseus felt the oppressive aura emanating from within. Even cloaked in Hades' helm of invisibility, his every step felt heavy, as though the cave itself sought to repel him. Sweat trickled down his brow as he advanced backward, guided by Athena's shield, its polished surface reflecting the cave's interior. One mistake, Perseus reminded himself, and I'll turn to stone. I must not falter. From my throne, I watched as Perseus inched closer to the sleeping Gorgons. Stheno and Euryale, their immortal sisters, lay nearby, their monstrous forms still as stone themselves. But it was Medusa, her venomous snakes shifting and hissing even in slumber, who commanded his full attention. The mortal Gorgon radiated an aura that could paralyze a lesser being with fear alone. Perseus's grip on the sword tightened as he approached. The closer he came, the more overwhelming the pressure became, as though the very air around him sought to crush his resolve. His legs trembled, and doubt clawed at his mind. Perhaps it's not too late to retreat, but a voice echoed within him, Athena's blessing, Hades' protection. He clenched his jaw and forced his arm to move. I am Perseus, destined to be a hero. I cannot falter here. Summoning every ounce of courage, Perseus raised the blade of Ares, and with a single swift motion, severed Medusa's head. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the anguished cries of her sisters as they awoke to the brutal reality. In the underworld, I watched as Medusa's soul emerged, her monstrous form fading as she stepped into my realm. Her beauty, once cursed and hidden, was restored in death, her radiant visage illuminating the shadowed halls. Medusa's eyes burned with fury as she bowed her head, her posture rigid with resentment. Medusa, I addressed her gently. Or should I call you the daughter of Phorcys and Ceto? At my words, she raised her head sharply, her expression a storm of pain and defiance. Do not call me by that cursed name. I'm no longer her. I incline my head slightly. I apologize. You were wronged in life, violated by Poseidon, cursed by Athena, and sacrificed for the glory of a hero. Your fate was not just. Her fists clenched, and her voice trembled with bitter rage. Is the ruler of the underworld mocking me? No, I replied, my tone steady. I come to offer you what little justice remains. I cannot undo the past, but as the god of the underworld, I can offer you recompense. Her anger wavered, confusion flickering in her eyes. What recompense could you possibly give me? I met her gaze, unwavering. You have two choices. First, I will petition Zeus to immortalize you as a constellation in the heavens, a lasting tribute to your strength and suffering. Medusa blinked, stunned. A constellation? For a monster like me? You were a victim, not a monster, I corrected. And though Zeus may resist at first, he will not deny my request. Even Athena may yield to the truth of your plight. Medusa hesitated, her expression torn between disbelief and cautious hope. And the second option? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, and the second thing. Medusa's wary gaze slowly turned to my lips, her eyes glimmering with faint hope. I will grant you the right to choose your own fate, I said firmly. Her breath hitched. Do you mean? If you wish to remain in the underworld, I will provide you with the greatest comfort. If you desire to reincarnate, you may decide every detail of your next life, even your status. Her eyes widened at the enormity of my offer. But there was more. Lastly, I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. If you so choose, I will elevate you to the rank of a minor deity of the underworld. The room fell silent. Even Medusa's sharp intake of breath seemed to echo. Her serpentine sisters, Stheno and Euryale, were already deities. Though Medusa had been mortal, her Titan blood and lineage made this offer not only plausible, but just. The Minos brothers, seated on either side of me, remained impassive. They were prepared for this. But Thanatos, who had brought Medusa's soul before me, stared, visibly startled. Why are you offering me this? Medusa asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. Her gaze bore into me, searching for hidden motives. Even as a god of mercy, granting divinity to a monster slain by a hero, it's unheard of. You are no monster, I said, cutting through her doubt. You were a victim of divine cruelty, of fate. Her confusion deepened, but she remained silent, allowing me to continue. There are many reasons. I played a part in your death, even if fate compelled me. I govern this realm where all mortals find their end, and it is my duty to maintain balance. But more than anything, I paused, meeting her questioning eyes. I have never seen anyone suffer as unjustly at the hands of the gods as you have. Her lips parted slightly, her expression wavering between anger and sorrow. You were violated by Poseidon, a force you could not resist. You were abandoned by Athena, whom you faithfully served, and turned into a creature reviled by mortals. You sought peace in isolation with your sisters, harming no one, only to be made a sacrificial pawn for a hero's glory. Medusa trembled, her fists clenched at her sides. I could see the weight of her pain reflected in her shaking form. In my judgment, I continued, my voice softer, no one, not Phaeton, Oedipus, or any other mortal, has endured more suffering at the hands of the gods than you. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, You truly believe that? The underworld is not bound by Olympus, I said resolutely. I may not be Zeus, but I hold the authority to elevate a minor deity. And I choose to use that authority for you. Tears welled in her eyes, glistening like pearls. You truly are a god of mercy, she murmured. I had never particularly liked being called that. If simply showing fairness earned me such a title, it spoke volumes about the cruelty of the other gods. Yet if those words brought her solace, I would accept them. A faint glimmer of hope began to shine in her gaze, like light breaking through the cracks of a long-sealed tomb. "If I become a god," she asked hesitantly, "will I ever be able to see my sisters again?" "You will not be able to live among mortals," I replied, "but I will allow you to visit them." Her lips quivered as she lowered her head in thought. Then, with a deep breath, she looked up and said, "If I can meet my sisters again, yes, please make me a deity." I nodded. Raising a hand, I summoned a surge of black divine energy that enveloped her. The transformation was breathtaking. Black flames consumed her mortal essence, purifying and reshaping it into something divine. Her Titan blood and demigod soul easily accepted the ascension, and the underworld seemed to hum with approval at the birth of its new deity. When the flames subsided, Medusa stood radiant, her new form unveiled. Her once cursed hair now shimmered with soft green hues, and her figure exuded both grace and power. She was no longer the monster mortals feared, but a goddess worthy of reverence. The Minos brothers gawked, and even I was struck by her ethereal beauty. But Medusa, oblivious to her transformation, let out a startled cry. "Kya!" She frantically tried to cover herself with her hands, her cheeks flushed crimson. Could you please give me some clothes?" An oversight on my part. With a wave of my hand, I clothed her in robes befitting her new station, a flowing gown as dark as the abyss, adorned with emeralds that glinted like her hair. "My apologies," I said, suppressing a rare smile. Later, as I reclined on my throne, Styx approached with her usual air of confidence. "Hades," she began, "now that Medusa has become a minor deity, how should we assign her duties?" "Assign her only the simplest tasks," I replied. "Her ascension was granted as compensation, not as a burden." Styx nodded, a rare softness in her expression. "Understood. I'll ensure she's given time to adjust." As she departed, I summoned Mint, the goddess of mint. She appeared, clutching papers, her expression weary. "Lord Hades, you summoned me?" she asked. "You've done well spreading mint among mortals," I said. "Your work has made it a symbol of the underworld. You may take a break from that task." Her face lit up. "Truly? I can stop?" "Thank you." I stifled a chuckle as she danced with joy, but I had another task for her. "Now," I said, "I want you to introduce mint as a culinary ingredient. Mortals must learn to use it in their food, reducing its association with funerals." Her joy vanished. "Food? Mint? Lord Hades, why?" "Sharon has been complaining about the overpowering scent of mint among the souls," I explained. "This will balance its use." Mint sighed dramatically, her previous enthusiasm fading, but I reassured her. "Complete this, and I'll take you on patrol near Mount Etna." Her eyes sparkled once more. "Just the two of us?" "Yes, just the two of us," I replied, instantly regretting my choice of words. Meanwhile, Hermes returned with the Kaini, Perseus's borrowed helm of invisibility, and informed me that Medusa's mortal head had been offered to Athena. I instructed him to retrieve it. "Medusa is now a goddess of the underworld," I told him. "Her body belongs here." Hermes stared at me, wide-eyed. "You made her a deity?" "She was never a monster," I said. "She was a victim. And now, she's one of us." When Medusa received her mortal head, she gazed at it silently, before bowing her head to me. "You've given me everything I lost," she said softly. "I will share your mercy with the world, so others may know there is justice, even in the underworld." Her words carried no bitterness, only gratitude. And for the first time in an age,
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
After killing Medusa, Perseus was passing by Ethiopia when he discovered a woman who had been offered as a sacrifice to a sea monster. The woman's name was Andromeda. Perseus turned the sea monster to stone, rescuing the princess, and became the son-in-law of King Cepheus of Ethiopia. However, just as Perseus and Princess Andromeda were about to have their wedding, someone barged in with soldiers. "Who is this wretch stealing my place?" "I am Andromeda's original fiancé." "Father-in-law? What are you saying? A fiancé? Huh. Don't worry about him, Perseus. That man was in favor of offering my daughter as a sacrifice. Is that so? He ran away from the threat of the sea monster, only to come back later, greedy for power. A coward? With that, Perseus grabbed Medusa's head from his bag, ready to take it out at any moment, and shouted, "Those who are on my side, close your eyes." Huh? What nonsense. Huh? What is... When Medusa's head, capable of turning all mortals who hadn't attained divinity into stone, was revealed in the hall, all who failed to close their eyes turned to stone. However, father, mother, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, I'm sorry. The king and queen of Ethiopia, who closed their eyes too late, were petrified and met their deaths. Greatly distressed, Perseus returned to the island of Seriphos and found King Polydectes, who had been threatening his mother Danae. Polydectes was horrified when Perseus, whom he believed to have perished at the hands of Medusa, returned. What? You survived Medusa? Don't lie to me. See for yourself if I'm lying. When the lustful king turned to stone and met his end, Perseus brought his mother Danae back. Perseus, even though your grandfather abandoned you because of the prophecy, I'm sure he still longs for you. Yes, mother, I will send a letter to Argos and meet him. However, Perseus' grandfather Acrisius fled under the cover of night, abandoning the throne of Argos. Perseus became the king of both Ethiopia and Argos, with Andromeda as his queen. The first thing Perseus did as king, after returning the weapons he had borrowed from the gods, was, I will sponsor the temples of the Olympian gods in the name of the royal family. To Lady Athena and Lord Hermes, and Your Majesty, however, we do not have a temple to the god Pluto in Argos. Then build one. It was an act of repaying the gods who had lent him their divine weapons. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. This is my domain, the underworld ruled by me, Hades. Since Medusa has become a new deity of the underworld, I ordered my followers to create a new statue of her. A few days later, when I listened to the world below, I thought Medusa was just a monster, but the priests of Pluto say something a little different. They say she was once human, but became a monster due to an unfortunate fate. Is that really true? I always thought she was just a monster. I don't quite understand it myself, but Lord Pluto isn't just any god. He must have uncovered the truth and restored her honor. Well, the god of the underworld has no reason to lie, after all. Is it that even those who are sad and unfortunate are rewarded in the underworld? Oh, merciful God! It seems Medusa has slightly altered her story and conveyed it to the living. Did she think that directly criticizing Athena and Poseidon might cause me trouble? In any case, my followers are half-believing, and some have even started offering prayers to Medusa's statue. Being one of the three major gods comes in handy at times like this. Olympus has sent a message saying it's a bit much to make Medusa a deity, but I relayed my thoughts well through Hermes, the messenger god. Probably. Tell Zeus to mind his own business and stop with the rapes. Uncle Hades. Do I have to relay that exactly? You decide? Anyway, Medusa's story is coming to an end, and now I hear someone in the mortal world calling out to me. Oh, Pluto! There aren't many ways mortals can reach me when I'm not paying attention to the living. But is it from Argos? Perseus? Now a king, Perseus had erected a great altar and was offering me sacrifices, calling out to me. As the king of two nations, the amount of sacrificial offerings was overwhelming. Oh, Pluto! I have repaid your grace in lending me the Helm of Darkness by building a temple in your honor. Please, send your priest. Perseus personally presided over the burnt offering atop a high wooden platform. Even though he had many servants at his disposal, the hero conducted the ritual himself. Your Majesty, we could... No, it's fine. I will handle it. As I watched this humble man who had become king, I suddenly remembered the prophecy about Perseus. The dreadful prophecy that he would kill his own grandfather. However, vague prophecies often have many loopholes, and if I can mitigate his inevitable tragedy, I can at least offer a small piece of advice. Tell Hypnos and Morpheus that I'm looking for them. Yes, understood. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Perseus, while offering a burnt sacrifice to Pluto in the mortal world, felt a strange sensation. His mind became momentarily hazy, and before him appeared a young man with wings. I am Morpheus, the god of dreams. I have come to deliver a message from Lord Hades. It is an honor. As Perseus knelt before him, the god before him exuded an aura of mystery as he spoke. The prophecy cannot be changed, but the path to its outcome is one you can choose. With these cryptic words, Morpheus vanished. The prophecy cannot be changed, but the path to it can be chosen. What could that mean? Isn't prophecy an absolute destiny that not even the gods can alter? What message could Lord Pluto have been trying to convey? Could it be because of the prophecy about him killing his grandfather? Your Majesty, Your Majesty, are you all right? Huh, what is it? Your Majesty, you were just standing there, asleep. As Perseus looked around, the citizens and servants watching the burnt offering were murmuring in confusion. They seemed baffled by whatever had just happened to their king. Quickly regaining his composure, Perseus' keen mind began to process the situation. From Olympus, Zeus, watching over him, called upon the goddess of fortune, Tyche, to bestow a small blessing. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, also lent him a moment of her wisdom, understanding the situation. People of Argos. Finally, the hero who had been silently contemplating opened his mouth. He spoke in an attempt to mitigate the tragic fate that had been handed to him. You all know why the former king, Acrisius, gave up his throne. The gathered citizens murmured amongst themselves. The prophecy that linked Perseus and Acrisius was widely known, and many were aware of it. As you know, there is a prophecy that I will kill my grandfather. But just now, I received a new prophecy from Pluto, Lord of the Underworld. So did His Majesty fall asleep because of that? Did Lord Pluto reward him for building the temples? Is it about that dreadful prophecy? Though the hall grew noisy, the king paid no mind and continued to speak. The prophecy cannot be avoided, but the path to it can be changed. That is the message from the god. All ears were now fixed on the king's words. I will treat my grandfather Acrisius with the utmost respect until he reaches the end of his natural lifespan, and just before he passes, I will personally ensure that he meets a peaceful end. I swear this by the river Styx. The people stirred as if divine judgment had descended upon them. A vow sworn by King Perseus, so soon after ascending to the throne. The river Styx, an unbreakable oath even the mighty gods of Olympus could not defy. To break such a vow would condemn a human soul to Tartarus after death. But could this change the prophecy, even slightly? Wait a moment. What if the king fails to keep this oath? Wait, hold on. No, don't do it. From amidst the chaotic crowd, an elderly man appeared. Though shabby in appearance, his face seemed oddly familiar. To swear by the river Styx so carelessly. What will you do if you can't keep that vow? Huh? Perseus, that's your grandfather? Mother, is it really true? Wait, could that be? The former king, Acrisius? Acrisius had secretly returned, curious to see the face of his grandson. When he heard his grandson making a vow by the river Styx, he couldn't help but step forward. Is that truly my grandfather? You look just like Danae, the daughter I wronged due to the prophecy. But why did you swear by the river Styx? Mother has spoken, and seeing your concern for me, I will lead you to safety, grandfather. I'm sorry, Perseus. They embraced each other, overjoyed by the reunion. Danae, watching this, burst into tears, and the citizens, witnessing this scene, began to pray. Nothing bad has happened, even though they've met. Could this mean? Has the unchangeable prophecy shifted slightly by the power of the Styx? Oh, the gods are merciful to witness such a sight. Though it was fated that Acrisius would die by Perseus' hand, he would now live out the rest of his life peacefully, eventually making his way to the embrace of Hades. Today is one of those days when I find myself in the office, pulling my hair out in frustration alongside Mott. It's the day to resolve Karen's grievance, where most of the dead souls arriving from the mortal world carry a strong mint scent. Ah, Hades, you're finally asking about it. My nose has been struggling. I see. I apologize. You should have mentioned it earlier. Don't misunderstand me. It's not that I hate the sin associated with you, or anything. It's just, I'll discuss this with Mont right away and find a solution. Athena had mentioned it before. Too much mint has been harvested up to the banks of the Acheron River. After I checked the entrance to the underworld and spoke with Sharon, I found out there's a lot more mint scent than I expected. No wonder there are those who dislike it. Hades, if mint becomes popular as food, won't the amount used in funerals increase? No matter how much they use it for food, I doubt humans would waste such a useful herb at funerals. Mint is a plant with strong reproductive and survival abilities. Perhaps it's because it originated from Mont's power, as she was once a nymph? But long ago, in my past life, there were no nymphs. While talking with Mont, I glanced at a mint leaf lying on the desk. Suddenly, I had the urge to drink some refreshing mint tea. Hades? One moment. I got up from my seat and brought out the cornucopia. As I reached into the broken horn, I imagined a yellow fruit, a lemon. Plop! Wow! This is the cornucopia? It's my first time seeing it. We gods don't really need food, but it's useful when we want a bit of refreshment. After pulling a lemon from the cornucopia, I peeled it in midair, mixed it with some mint leaves, and... Do you like sweet things by any chance? Of course! I love honey. The bees near Mount Etna, blessed by Pan. When I thought of honey, golden liquid slowly flowed from the cornucopia. I caught a decent amount in midair, mixed it well, and poured it into a golden cup. And with that, the lemon honey mint tea was complete. This is mint tea, personally made by Hades. The tea, now a soft yellow, sat in the golden cup. I offered it to the wide-eyed Mont and took a few sips myself. Sip. The well-ripened lemon, with its perfect tartness, combined with the fresh mint aroma and the delightful sweetness of the finest honey I had imagined, created a superb flavor. Wow, this is really good. Humans would love this. If there are any idle gods, we should invite them and share this. I'll go call them. I saw Lady Styx resting in her room earlier. Mont, having already finished her tea, licked her lips and left the office. I sipped my tea while waiting for her to return. Perhaps I could spread different varieties of mint to the mortal world, encouraging humans to use it in more foods. And for those who dislike mint, I could simply advise them not to force themselves to endure it. After all, personal tastes in food can vary widely, so it wouldn't be wrong to issue an oracle allowing my followers to avoid it if they wish. Clunk. Hades. Mont said you were calling. What are you sharing this time? Is this a reward for all our hard work? Mint tea? Isn't that a plant humans use at funerals? It was Lady Styx who entered with Mont, followed by Moros, who symbolizes doom, and Carice, who represents inevitable death. I offered them seats and remade the lemon honey mint tea I had just prepared. As the sweet and subtle scent filled the office, it tickled everyone's noses. This is mint tea I'm planning to spread throughout the mortal world. Please try it. As you mentioned before, the overwhelming scent of mint from the souls. Are you planning to spread it as an ingredient among mortals? It reminds me of Dionysus wine, mixing honey, mint, and lemon. How about adding other spices? This is really delicious. As each of them received a cup of the golden tea, I brought out a dish of roasted lamb from the cornucopia to complement the mint tea. The well-seasoned lamb was sprinkled with various herbs and spices. As the juice slowly oozed out of the tender meat, I offered it to everyone. This pairs well with the mint. Humans make bread from grains blessed by Demeter. This mint tea would go nicely with that hard bread. Wouldn't mint also go well with fish? It could be used as a spice. Watching them enjoy mortal food, I continued pulling out dishes from the cornucopia. There was roasted rodent with beans and figs, a salad with tomatoes and cucumbers. With so much laid out, we had a feast before we knew it. It's not quite ambrosia, but it's still quite good. Shall I invite other gods? Gulp. I saw Hypnos earlier. What was supposed to be a gathering to discuss mint had quickly turned into a banquet. Oh well, I'll have to talk to Mon about the mint later. In that case, let's just hold a full banquet. Everyone's been working hard lately, haven't they? Oh, that's a great idea. We can spare a day, right? Especially since there's been less work in the underworld. Eating something other than ambrosia and nectar for a change isn't so bad. At this point, I might as well invite all the gods. I'll extend invitations to the relatively free administrators and the 3 Minus brothers, the judges of souls. Messenger, go tell Lady Lethe, who's working in the soul quarters, that I'm summoning her, and also to the spirits leading souls on the river Styx. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The gods gathered in the office moved to the underworld's banquet hall. Just as the heralds sent here and there began to bring the gods in, I overturned the cornucopia. Skewered and herb-seasoned roast birds, small wraps of bread and vegetables paired with salads of cheese and olive oil. Though not directly made by Dionysus, beautifully aged wine of striking color. Wow, the underworld's banquet is quite extravagant. He meant this place may not be Olympus, but it doesn't fall behind the banquets of the Olympus Palace. Of course, with food coming from Lord Hades' cornucopia, it's bound to be delicious. There were dishes like well-aged cheese mixed with tomatoes and peppers, sautéed dishes, wraps of meat and cabbage leaves, and stuffed tomatoes or pumpkins filled with meat called jamista. As a variety of food was set in the banquet hall, the gods, anticipating the feast, refreshed their palates with wine. Screech. Walking into the banquet hall were not Nemesis, but the 3 Erinyes, the goddesses of vengeance. With bronze wings and heads wreathed with snakes, they hesitantly looked around as they approached. Are we really allowed to join this banquet? Hello, I'm Mint, the goddess of mint, recently born goddess. Ah, a newly born goddess. The nymph who created mint. Hey, Tisiphone, it's been a while. Have cases of infidelity in the mortal world decreased recently? Thanatos. Thankfully, they seem to be blending in well. Seeing my efforts bear fruit fills me with pride. It was a good decision to occasionally bring the gods to their dark and gloomy dwelling on the outskirts of the underworld. Reluctance towards their terrifying appearance tends to fade after frequent meetings. I am the lesser god Medusa, paying my respects to Alecto, the goddess of endless rage. Actually, I was thinking of visiting you. Is that so? If you had retained your rage even in the underworld, I might have held the gods accountable as well. Even those 2 gods. I was a bit surprised by the conversation between Medusa and Alecto. In truth, the Erinyes rarely appear to powerful gods. Even though Hera is the goddess of family, it's the same principle that allows her to kill a woman who's been raped but not harm Zeus. Alecto continued, sighing, to the bowing Medusa. Poseidon and Athena did you a terrible wrong. You must feel much resentment towards the gods. But, yes, please understand that not all gods are like that. Sensing the attention of the 2 goddesses shifting towards me, I averted my eyes. It's not that I'm particularly virtuous. It's just that other gods are all a bit off in some way. Fortunately, both Medusa and Mint, who have newly ascended to godhood, were fitting in well. The effort I put into educating the other gods was worth it. I had always hoped there would be as little discrimination as possible based on one's rank or status. When will it start? Sharon? How did you get here? Can I come? I left a part of my power with my double. But I do need to return soon. Morphus, why do you send dreams right before I fully lull them to sleep? I must have dreamed myself. Athenian residents are mistaking it for an oracle. Be more careful next time. Hades, let's get started. It seems like everyone is here already. Goddess Styx, already tipsy from nectar before the banquet even started, called to me. Really, no matter how hard your work is, isn't drinking too much nectar a bit much? As all eyes turned to me, I slowly surveyed the crowd. Goddess Lethe, Goddess Styx, Medusa, and Mint looking a bit awkward, Thanatos still hard at work, and many other gods and officials of the underworld, all of whom constantly support and assist me. I hope today's banquet serves as a small reward for them. Rising from my seat, I slowly raised a golden cup filled with nectar and began to speak. The other gods followed my lead, raising their nectar-filled cups. Now, let us commence the underworld's banquet. It may be modest compared to Olympus, but I hope everyone enjoys it to the fullest today. Speaking in this formal tone feels strange. Zeus of Olympus might be used to ruling with supreme authority, but the underworld is much more horizontal in structure. After I finished speaking, one of the oldest gods present, Thanatos, took the lead. Glory to Alam. To the underworld. Glory to the underworld. Thus began an uncertain feast, one that might never end. Glory to the underworld. All those who raised their golden cups high echoed Thanatos' words and drank the nectar. I too took a big gulp of the divine drink from my cup. Gulp, gulp, swallow. Phew. So, this is what nectar tastes like. It's incredibly delicious. Ha! Mint. Now that you've become a god, you'll get used to it soon enough. This reminds me of a long time ago, the first time I tasted nectar and ambrosia. Hypnos, stop teasing the young goddess. So, this is nectar. Try some ambrosia too, Medusa. No mint tea or Dionysus wine can compare to this heavenly taste. Since its flavor is not fixed, no drink can compare to nectar. Nectar is not just delicious. It provides a sense of spiritual fulfillment to the gods. There's a reason why mortals don't age while consuming nectar and ambrosia. But drink too much, and this is what happens. Hades, let's share a drink. It's been so long. You've had quite a bit to drink. Lady Styx? Yes, like this. Lady Styx, who is staggering toward me with a cup in hand. She walks toward me, her face flushed and wearing a seductive smile, seemingly having had plenty of nectar. Hades! Honestly, it's the kind of drunkenness that can be easily dispelled with just a little divine power. Gods drink it much like humans do with wine, but she seems to have gotten herself deliberately drunk. Oh my! Thud. So that was her plan. She very unnaturally tripped and stumbled toward me with pleading eyes, making me catch her without thinking. I held her arm and waist, intending to help her up, but then, Lady Styx closed her eyes and pursed her lips, as if she was hoping for something awkward from me. Ugh, get away, Styx. How many times do I have to tell you? Really, Lethe? Is that how you're going to be? The goddess Lethe swiftly approached, grabbed the goddess of Oz who had closed her eyes, and pulled her upright. And just like that, Styx, who had been so drunk she could barely stand, instantly sobered up and began complaining to Lethe. Please, let's all just share our drinks peacefully. Mint? Nectar is dripping from your mouth. What? Oh, why yes. TSK. This is what happens when you don't get married soon. Zeus and Poseidon have so many wives and concubines, it's impossible to count them all. Hades, you seem to be quite popular. Ahem. Well, I walked over to where Medusa and the Erinyes sisters were standing. The three goddesses of vengeance, with their bronze wings, eyes that wept blood, and serpent hair, have always been avoided for their terrifying appearance. But they were willing to attend the banquet after refusing many times, so as the host, it's only right I approach them first. It's a gesture to show the minor gods and the underworld's attendance. As the ruler of the underworld, if I treat them with such respect and care, it sends a clear message that they should not be disrespected. Medusa, are you enjoying the banquet? Yes. Thank you for looking after me. A flirtatious god as always, I'm sure. Alecto, whose name means unceasing anger. Why is she glaring at me and turning her head away? And why are the snakes, which are her hair, looking this way? Hiss. Ugh. Why are they acting like this again? Hades, as I've said many times before, please stop doing that. Alecto, scolding her own hair, flushed with embarrassment. Tisiphone sighing as she speaks, and Megira, nodding as she chews on a mouthful of ambrosia. Well, I'll continue inviting you to future banquets. Will you come? Well, I don't hate it, but for some reason, this feels familiar. Have we been through something like this before? Anyway, I've at least had a conversation with them, so they shouldn't be shunned at future banquets. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I approached Sharon, the ferryman of the Acheron River, who was sitting to one side, sipping wine. For some reason, he had set aside the nectar and was only drinking wine. Sharon, Ah, Hades, why don't you have a glass of this wine too? Aren't you drinking the nectar? Sometimes wine isn't so bad. Wasn't it Dionysus who made this? Sharon, who wasn't eating any of the food from the cornucopia or ambrosia, continued drinking his wine. He suddenly spoke to me, as if he had just remembered something. These days, many of the souls coming to the underworld seem quite at ease. Why is that? To mortals, the underworld is, yes, a symbol of inevitable death and fear. But, you see, as the number of people who believe in you grows, more and more are contemplating life after death. It seemed that the influence I could exert in the mortal world through my temples in Thebes and Argos was gradually increasing. Though I thought my faith was still somewhat minor, if even Sharon had noticed, it seemed I had more followers than I realized. I've even seen those who lived honest lives face death with surprising composure. That's very good news. Your followers believe they'll receive a fair judgment in the afterlife, don't they? It seems that belief has spread throughout the mortal world. As the story of Medusa quietly spread around Thebes, a rumor began to grow that even a monster turned human could receive my mercy. If I listen closely to the mortal world right now, are you really all right with leaving this world under false accusations? Don't worry too much. Pluto is a just god. Ugh, those scoundrels will definitely be judged in the underworld. Can you say the same thing, that you are innocent, before Pluto himself? Of course. I could even swear it at the temple. Seeing how confident you are, I'll reinvestigate. Still, not many call me Hades. No matter how much I am called the god of mercy and wealth rather than the god of the underworld, this is truly unavoidable. For mortals, death is as terrifying as Zeus' thunderbolts, and so is the underworld. Proof of this can be seen in the fact that most of those who pray before Thanatos' statue in Thebes are old men. Recently, even Perseus, the king, heard of Medusa's tale. He came to my temple in Argos to pray to me back then. O Lord of the underworld, is it true that the Medusa whose head I severed was once human? Perseus' face was filled with slight disbelief, guilt, and inner turmoil. I possessed the body of one of the priests and answered him. Yes, it's true that she was transformed into that grotesque form by the whims of fate. What? This can't be. Now a minor goddess of the underworld. She wishes to speak with you. Would you like to converse with her? Please, I beg of you. Just as Medusa, now a goddess, had requested, I allowed the meeting. Even when Medusa, possessing a mortal body, met the man who had severed her head, she appeared to hold no ill will. It was you who cut off my head, Perseus. Is it really you, Medusa? I don't know what to say. It's fine. You were merely swept along by fate, and I do not resent you for it. But Perseus was clearly flustered, struggling to apologize. Though he had achieved great heroic feats, his character was not unpleasant. As their conversation grew longer, I quietly slipped away. Not long after, a small temple was built beside mine in Argos. The deity of the temple was Medusa, now a minor goddess of the underworld. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. There was even a rumor that King Perseus would occasionally visit Medusa's temple to pray. As I reminisced about the story of Medusa and Perseus, I was snapped back to reality by a loud noise. Thanatos, the black-winged god of death, came rushing into the banquet hall. He had hurriedly left the hall earlier. Did he go to investigate something? Maybe I should grant Thanatos a vacation sometime. Series Moros Sharon, there's big trouble. A war has broken out in the mortal world. What? Again? Damn it. Let's go, Moros. Have those mortals started another war? Sharon, who had been chugging wine, threw down his cup and stood up in a rush. The other gods of death, Moros and Ceres, also left the hall. A war in the mortal world? How many souls will come this time? Lord Hades, I'm sorry, but I must go as well. Upon hearing the news, more than half of the minor gods and attendants hurriedly left. Even the 3 judges, the sons of Minos, discreetly took their leave and headed to the courtroom. How is it that every time I try to rest, there's a great flood, a hero's rampage, or a war? There's no helping it. Hades, it's time to get back to work. The goddess Lethe brushed past me, leaving a comment in her wake. I was left speechless at the sight of her beautiful eyes, heavy with exhaustion. Lord Hades, is the underworld's banquet always like this? Medusa and Mint were frozen in place, watching the gods and attendants leave the hall so methodically, as if resigned to their fate. Yes, this is the underworld. You never truly get a moment's rest. Mint, locking eyes with me, swallowed a piece of ambrosia she had been eating and awkwardly asked, Lord Hades, should I start working too? Mint, why don't you focus on finishing that mint dish we couldn't complete earlier? We also need to figure out how to introduce it to the mortal world. Now that things had come to this, I might as well finish what I started before taking a break. Unfortunately, the banquet is over. As I was about to return to my office with Mint, who was sulking, I heard Medusa's parting words. The underworld is quite a peculiar place. I agree. It had been a long time since I had spread mint-based foods to the mortal world after creating them with mint. Fortunately, it seemed to have worked, as the ferryman Sharon really liked them. Shall I take a moment to observe the reactions in the mortal world? Thebes has changed so much that it's almost like my own domain now. It's similar to how Athena is worshipped in Athens. The worshippers of Dionysus have dwindled, being pushed out by mine, becoming a minority. Maybe it's because word has spread that committing crimes in pursuit of freedom and indulgence would lead to judgment in the underworld. If I listen closely for a moment, I can hear the conversations of the people of Thebes. Near my temple, if I listen to the voices talking about mint, we should adjust the amount of mint used in funerals. We could eat the plant blessed by Pluto, right? It grows well even with just water. How about mass cultivating it? The main use is as an herb or spice, so I don't know if we need to grow it in bulk. Hey, priest, I heard you have to eat mint to become a priest of Pluto. Is that true? Huh. It's true that mint is Pluto's symbol. But do you know what he said in his oracle? An oracle? What did he say? He said that since everyone has different preferences, do not discriminate against those who dislike his symbol. Wow. So, I can still become a priest even if I don't like mint, as the fact that many foods can be made with mint, such as mint tea and mint mixed with honey, became known in the mortal world, the amount of mint used in funerals decreased. I looked at the progress of mint food propagation summarized in the parchment and spoke to Mint. She stood there with a slightly nervous expression. Well, this parchment was her work after all. Mint, you've gotten used to writing reports by now. Really? I've been writing them every day. Even Mint, who had been clumsy with underworld matters, is now visibly getting the hang of things. At this rate, I can start giving her more tasks. As I raised my head with a satisfied smile, I met Mint's eyes, and she was beaming as if something good had happened. Lord Hades, now that mint foods have spread widely in the mortal world, about the reward you mentioned last time. That's right. I had made a promise to her. I had promised that if she completed this task well, I'd take her with me when I patrolled near Mount Etna. You said it was just with me? Yes. Since you've been doing well with your tasks lately, let's go together. Wow. Thank you. Hug. Wait, hold on, don't just suddenly hug me like that. Hey. The refreshing scent of mint from the mint goddess clinging to me tickled the tip of my nose. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Together with Mint, we ventured into the mortal world. Soon, we arrived near Mount Etna. As expected, we were greeted by vast grasslands, animals, and many nymphs. I drove the chariot pulled by spectral horses around Mount Etna to inspect Typhon's condition. While I was enjoying the scenery, I saw Mint waving toward a forest not too far away. Oh, Delia's Iphigenia. Mint, they said you became Hades' priest. No, didn't they say she's a goddess now? There were some naiads who had been nymphs like Mint playing there. They seemed happy to see Mint, but when their eyes met mine as I sat in the chariot. Gee God, Mint became a minor god of the underworld, so could it be? Black hair, black eyes, spectral horses, the lord of the underworld? Their faces turned pale in an instant, and they hurriedly knelt before me. Seeing them unable to leave made me sigh. I haven't done anything, and they're already afraid. Well, who would welcome the underworld? Mint must be the exception, seeing as she asked me out on our first meeting. Mint, I'll go look around elsewhere. You can go play with your friends. Ugh. Yes, thank you. They all have such strong prejudices. Seeing Mint jump off the chariot and run to her friends while teary-eyed, I left the scene. I'll come back for her in a little while. Mint, aren't you scared? A minor god of the underworld. Becoming a god is something to celebrate, but the underworld, eek. But the underworld is nice too. I can hear everything, even from there. After some time passed, I headed back to where Mint had disembarked. By now, she should have had enough time to catch up with her friends. Sure enough, there she was waiting for me. Sigh. I think everyone has too many prejudices about the underworld. There's no helping it. It's the final destination of mortals and the world of the dead. Seeing Mint, who had spent so much time in the mortal world, now speaking about the underworld with a gloomy face, made me laugh. She's become quite the underworld resident now. Once you experience the underworld, it's actually quite fun. At this point, even the souls look cute to me, you know? Ah, maybe it's because you're a peculiar nymph? What? I'm just an ordinary naiad. And now I'm a god. The way I see you, you're still that weird nymph from back then. Ugh, I'm not weird. What are you talking about? Where would you find another nymph like you? What kind of crazy nymph would want to spend time with the lord of the underworld? As I reminisced about those memories, smiling while looking back at her, a strange feeling washed over me. This odd sensation from the north, a flow of power with many moving quickly. It's not just one or two. There are at least hundreds. Not human, not nymph, not gods. Lord Hades? Sa. I increased my divine power, even more, the power I had suppressed while coming to the mortal world. The surrounding plants and animals began to die, and the dryads, the tree spirits, screamed, but there was no helping it. I extended my hand, searching thoroughly. Many presences moving from deep underground. Rumble? This feeling, without a doubt, was Gigantes, the hateful enemies of us gods. And there were at least hundreds of them, launching an attack. Why would they appear here, and not in Olympus or one of the major human cities? Ah, I see. This is Mount Etna, the place where Typhon's body is buried. If Gaia were to dig up the mountain and get hold of Typhon's powerful body, she could stir up a lot of trouble. She could summon Typhon's consciousness from Tartarus, or use the body as a sacrifice to create another monster. In the worst-case scenario, Typhon could be resurrected. Even in the best-case scenario, the body could go on a rampage and cause severe damage. If most of the Olympian gods didn't intervene, the unleashed body would devastate the surroundings. Lord Hades? What's happening? The Gigantes have launched an attack. Return to the underworld, Mint. Was this the single strike Prometheus had spoken of? Indeed, if Typhon's body were stolen, it would be an enormous loss for the gods. No matter how well you prepare, the gods will inevitably be struck by Gaia's blow, even if I warn you in advance. Are you saying we're bound to be hit at least once? Of course, it'll be quite a painful blow to your plans. But Prometheus, I believe your prophecy will be wrong this time. Because I, Hades, am here. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The Mint goddess, Mint, was in high spirits. She had successfully carried out Hades' command to spread Mint foods in the mortal world, and he had kept his promise to take her on patrol around Mount Etna. She had also reconnected with other nymph friends she was close to in the mortal world. Now, she was looking forward to spending some quality time with the handsome Lord Hades. She had always been afraid of making a move, with Lady Styx and Lady Lethe's watchful eyes looming over her. But now they were alone in the mortal world, and today she would finally show him her charm, or so Mint thought. Hades, who had been smiling kindly at her, suddenly hardened his expression, a deep silence overtaking him. Black divine energy slowly began to leak from his body. Lord Hades, sensing something strange, he extended his right hand and drew forth his power. The overwhelming strength of one of the three gods was unleashed, and the surrounding plants and animals perished. It was a side of him that did not match the merciful God who usually suppressed his power for the sake of the living. What on earth is going on? Why was he? The power Hades drew upon grew stronger and stronger, little by little more and more. Could the combined strength of all the underworld's gods even match the sheer pressure he was radiating right now? Whinny, snort, as if reflecting his emotions. The ghostly horse's eyes glowed with blue ghost fire, and the flames of the underworld erupted from their hooves. The spirits, baring their sharp teeth in cold grins, seemed to be eagerly anticipating the imminent slaughter. The chariot, which had seemed ordinary until just moments ago, now radiated a chilling aura, with the screams of the dead etched into its surface. Before she knew it, the chariot had transformed into a dreadful sight befitting the lord of the underworld. Watching Hades gradually become enveloped in a black aura, she began to tremble with fear. Lord Hades? Is something wrong? The Gigantes have launched an attack. Return to the underworld meant Gigantes, the enemies that Hades and the other gods of the underworld had been so wary of. According to the prophecy, without the help of mortal heroes, the gods would be unable to defeat these monsters. Shouldn't she, now a god herself, fight alongside Hades? How could he face such dangerous enemies on his own? Lord Hades, I can fight too. A thick hand gently stroked the goddess's long hair. Eyes as dark as the abyss, with no end in sight. Unlike before, when he had always seemed troubled and hesitant about physical contact with her, he now wore a cold smile and whispered quietly into her ear. It's an order meant goddess. The usual merciful god, Pluto, who cared for the unjust dead and remained unruffled even by blasphemy, was nowhere to be seen. Standing before her now was the terrifying king of the underworld, Hades, whom all feared. Yes, I'll summon the other gods. Please be careful. Mint couldn't possibly disobey his command. Near Mount Etna, a group of beautiful nymphs and goddesses were playing ball. Among them was a goddess born of Demeter, the goddess of the earth, and Zeus, the king of the gods. Ki-ha-ha-ha! Throw it here! Kore, catching it with flowers is cheating. So what? You guys use your abilities too. A goddess with radiant golden hair and stunning beauty, appearing to be in her early 20s, spoke. She looked like a flower herself. Huh, I think my mother sees me as too weak. The goddess of the earth? Her full name is Persephone. Her nickname is Kore. Yes, even when I go out to play, just a little, she tells me to be wary of monsters, be careful of the Gigantes. Ugh, Lady Demeter really must love you, Kore. As the goddess of spring and seeds, she was playing with the many nymphs when, suddenly, she tilted her head, showing a curious expression. HM, don't you all hear something? Is it the sound of birds crying? I hear the refreshing sound of a stream in the forest. The other nymphs and lesser gods didn't notice it, but Kore, the daughter of Zeus and Demeter, could sense it. A powerful vibration coming from below the ground. Quang! Thwack! Suddenly, creatures with the lower body of a snake and the upper body of a human appeared from beneath the earth. It was the Gigantes, enemies of the gods. Kaya! Monsters all of a sudden. Gigantes? Oh my! Zeus! The nymphs were shocked by the appearance of these large and hideous monsters. But it was too soon to panic, as more Gigantes were emerging from the ground. Thwack! Kugo! The nymphs, trying to escape in all directions, soon found themselves unable to run any further, because Gigantes surrounded them, watching from all sides. Kahaha! Are these the creations of the gods? They look delicious. That blonde one seems like a goddess. Let's capture her and take her away. Don't forget, our goal is to free our brothers buried beneath this mountain. Then, brothers, let's kill all witnesses and dig up Mount Etna. The nymphs froze in terror at the grotesque conversation of these snake-like monsters. Against such powerful creatures, each one as strong as a lesser god or a human hero who could stand a chance. Take this. Payas dash. Cough. Cough. Is that poison? What is this? A divine power? Knock that goddess down first. Ugh! The plants are binding us. Only a god could oppose them. As yellow powder spread from Persephone's hands, the Gigantes couldn't stop coughing. Then, plants and flowers rapidly grew from the ground, binding them. Kore! Zeus, help us! This was the power of the goddess of spring. Her power, which governed spring and seeds, wasn't suited for battle. However, as the daughter of Demeter and Zeus, Persephone possessed significant divine authority. Cough! Was there a goddess who could wield poison and plants? Ah, but she's just one. It's not poison, it's pollen, you stupid monsters. But the Gigantes gathered here weren't ordinary beings either. Even though Persephone's divine authority was second only to the 12 Olympian gods, there were hundreds of Gigantes in this place. Pelorios, let's tear down Mount Etna before Olympus finds out. Thoas, you worry too much. K. Olympus? If they come, I'll kill them all myself. I'm telling you to be cautious, Pallas. Zeus might be watching. There were 4 Gigantes commanding the others, each nearly equal to, or just slightly weaker than the Olympian gods. Persephone would never escape unscathed. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Quam. While many of the Gigantes were digging up Mount Etna, the remaining ones surrounded Persephone and the nymphs. The monsters slowly approached, mocking them, as if they planned to toy with them. Kaya, I want to hear you scream. What should we do? Kaya, please save us. Lady Demeter. Ah! One by one, the nymphs were either devoured or torn apart by the Gigantes. No matter how much Persephone resisted, she was alone, and the monsters were overwhelmingly many. I'll take care of this goddess. Pallas, you're going to have all the fun by yourself? Ah, if you're unhappy, come and take her from me. Ah, Tise. Persephone gritted her teeth as she desperately drew out her remaining divine power. Even when she tried to hinder them by growing plants or striking with her godly energy, the Gigante named Pallas was too strong. He was indeed comparable to the 12 Olympian gods. There were 3 other Gigantes besides him commanding the monsters. Even if her mother, Demeter, were to come herself, they wouldn't be able to defeat these monsters. SSSSK. A Gigante approached her, flexing his hands, as his snake-like lower body moved in a chilling manner, pressuring the goddess. Have you already given up, goddess? My father is Zeus, and my mother is the goddess Demeter. All of you will die miserably. I, Persephone, swear it. Huh? Even a curse capable of destroying an entire city with a single word was useless. For the first time in her life, the daughter of Zeus and Demeter felt powerless. The monster, now close enough, grabbed her by the neck and lifted her off the ground. Ugh! But she couldn't resist at all. She had exhausted her divine power, and her ichor, the golden blood of gods, was spilling so much from her wounds that the ground was soaked. Dash. She, who was born of golden lineage, envied by all, and lived a life with no regrets, was now about to meet her end at the hands of this grotesque monster. You seem to be a young goddess, but blame your fate. Whoosh! As she clenched her eyes shut, bracing for the pain to come, she felt a strange touch on her side. It was a thick male hand gently pulling her in. Thwack! When Persephone opened her eyes slightly, she saw the Gigante's head smashed to pieces dead. Are you all right? Before her was a dark-haired, dark-eyed male god who had placed her in his chariot. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It didn't take long for her to realize who the god that saved her from certain death was. The immense power he exuded far surpassed that of her mother, Demeter, one of the 12 Olympians. Perhaps even rivaling the power of Zeus, the king of the gods. There was only one such dark-haired god she knew of. The ruler of the underworld, Hades. As the monsters charged in rage over their fallen comrade, a spear split into 2 prongs appeared in the dark-haired god's hand, as if tearing through the air. Quunk! A black beam of energy emitting a cold aura cut through the space, and the Gigantes caught in its destructive force vanished as if they had evaporated. Crackle! Whoosh dash! The terrifying destruction carved into the earth, and the sky itself was split in half by the black spear's power, causing the Gigantes to tremble in fear. What the hell? Kaya! What kind of god is that? This power! Is he one of the 12 Olympians? Ares? Hephaestus? Shut up! a being like this, with Persephone riding behind him. Hades drove the chariot forward once again. The Gigantes, each at least as powerful as minor gods, were slaughtered effortlessly. None could even see the moment when his spear struck, and none of the snake monster's attacks could touch him. Whinny, snort! The ghostly horses pulling the chariot trampled the lower bodies of the Gigantes. And as the spear infused with a chilling, killing intent flew through the air, another monstrous corpse would always fall. Crash! Thwack! Grrgh! Eurydice! Let's attack together! Create an opening! Thoas! The Gigantes tried to restrain him, desperate to create a chance to pull out Typhon's body. The three commanding Gigantes Persephone had seen earlier all rushed in and surrounded the chariot, black mist swirling around it. Just as the goddess of spring thought this was dangerous and was about to say so, a cold smile deepened on Hades' lips. Swish dash! The two-pronged spear, the bit-end, struck the ground. A massive crack spread out, temporarily connecting the world of the living and the underworld. The atmosphere grew heavy, and black energy erupted from the ground. From the endless fissure came the soldiers of the underworld. Ghostly soldiers with translucent bodies emerged, wielding spears and swords, in an unending stream. Damn it! It's Hades, the god of the underworld. Ah! Die! Even if he's one of the three gods, he's alone. These dead men have no place in the living world. Crash! Boom! The Gigantes pulled up nearby trees and swung their fists to resist, but the soldiers of the underworld multiplied beyond count. From the time humans first came into being, the ranks of the underworld's army had steadily grown. The ghostly army, emanating an aura of death, successfully sealed off the Gigantes trying to free Typhon. Pelorios, if we take down Hades, we win. Stay on guard. For Mother Gaia. A diagonal slash of Hades' spear shot into the sky, slicing off another Gigante's upper body. Even with the power of the underworld god tearing half their bodies apart, there was no monster that could regenerate. Take this! Thoas, from atop the chariot, aimed a massive wooden club at Hades' head, swinging it down with all his strength. The blow was strong enough to crush a mountain. Clang! But the Lord of the Underworld casually blocked it with one hand, drawing a black longsword from his waist. The immense clash of power caused a deafening boom, reducing the surroundings to ruin. Boom! Crash! Yet, even in this chaos, Persephone, sitting behind Hades on the chariot, was unharmed, without a single scratch. And she realized that not once had Hades allowed an attack to land. He's playing with these monsters, each one powerful enough to rival the Olympian gods. Although Zeus and Poseidon were among the 12 Olympians, they, along with Hades, were grouped as the three gods. There was a rumor that even if all 12 Olympians were to join forces, they wouldn't be able to defeat one of the three gods. It turns out the stories she had laughed about with the nymphs were true. It was only after the battle had begun that she noticed the cold smile constantly hanging on Hades' lips. One of the Gigante commanders, who had been catching his breath, became enraged and charged in. Damn it! Don't underestimate us. Hades! Wait! Eurydice! Don't rush in recklessly. Schwack thwack! Krah! But with a swift flash of his jet-black longsword, both arms of the charging Gigante were severed. Eurydice, who had boldly attacked, fell to the ground, spraying blood in all directions. Ugh! Ugh! He's even stronger than I thought. Persephone had heard many rumors about Hades, the ruler of the underworld. They said that, since he ruled over the dead, he must look grotesque and terrifying. Most were grim rumors. As a young goddess who hadn't even attended the Olympian feasts, these stories only added to the mystery. Even when humans spoke of him as a god of mercy, she had dismissed it as mere hearsay, having never seen him herself. It wasn't uncommon for humans to turn their fear into worship. But now Persephone could see that all of that was wrong. The gentle way he had rescued her, softly wrapping his arm around her waist in her moment of danger. His strength, rivaling even her father Zeus, and the careful way he protected her throughout the battle. And finally, the fact that, contrary to the grotesque image she had imagined, His face was cold but handsome. A small whisper slipped from Persephone's lips, as if she were entranced. He's incredible. Rushing north in the chariot, I soon discovered the Gigantes slaughtering the nymphs. Screams filled the air as nymphs died, and one blonde-haired goddess struggled desperately to resist. Crunch asked, "Please save us. Lady Demeter, I don't want to die." I hadn't seen this goddess at the banquet held in Olympus before. Judging by her strength, appearance, and combat experience, she seemed to be a young goddess, not even 200 years old. Her divine power suggested that she was the child of a strong god, close to the level just below the 12 Olympians. Dash. Although I was still some distance away, my phantom horses swiftly galloped across the land, and I arrived in no time. What I saw was a Gigantes commander lifting the goddess by the neck with a sadistic grin on his face. "You look like a young goddess. Curse your fate." The strength I sensed from him was slightly below Apollo or Ares, around the level of the 12 Olympians. And there were 3 others just as strong as him. The Gigantes clinging to Mount Etna, digging into Typhon's body, were at the level of lower gods. There seemed to be hundreds, if not thousands, of these monstrous creatures. A swarm of vermin had gathered. Whack! Summoning my bid-ant, I slashed it powerfully. The Gigante's head burst apart instantly, and blood splattered across the land. I maneuvered the phantom horses and gently lifted the exhausted goddess, placing her behind me in the chariot. This chariot of Hades is the safest place on the battlefield. "Are you all right?" There was no response, but it didn't matter. From the ichor pouring out of her body, it was clear that she had sustained serious injuries. "Who are you? Even if you're an Olympian god, it's just one more. Attack. What can you do alone?" Noticing the death of their comrade, a swarm of vermin rushed toward me. Mount Etna is not an ordinary mountain. A god with enough power could easily destroy an entire mountain, especially when that mountain contains Typhon's body. But why has the seal holding him still remained intact? That's because various measures have been put in place. Mount Etna's enormous size, Zeus' divine power, and the seal crafted by the gods themselves. Taking a glance at the condition of Mount Etna, take this dash. What do you think you can accomplish alone? Boom! Now where was I? Right, the state of Mount Etna. Given a brief moment, these horrifying creatures, the Gigantes, would be able to dig into the mountain. But since I'm interfering, the commander's forces would have to focus on me. As for the ones on par with lesser gods, Eurydice, let's work together. You create an opening, toes. 3 of them, far stronger than the others, surrounded my chariot. Even so, it would only take Dionysus and Ares to handle these lot. But now that I've arrived, the battle is practically over. No need to rush. I could take my time killing them. I drove my bid-ant into the ground and used my divine power to open a path to the underworld. Crack dash. It feels like I'm causing too much damage to Demeter's domain, the earth, but since the Gigantes attacked, she'll likely understand to some extent. The underworld is not just the world beneath the surface. It's a completely separate realm from this one. You can't reach it simply by digging down. Damn it, it's Hades, the god of the underworld. Die. Even if he's one of the big 3, he's alone. Send him and those already dead back to the underworld. Of course, unless I use my power to connect the 2 worlds, that is, a wave of translucent souls crawled up from the ground and clung to the Gigantes. This army can't be killed. Unless the entire underworld is destroyed, they'll keep reviving. Though their plan to quickly steal Typhon without Olympus noticing has already failed, the 3 Gigantes in front of me still seem to cling to hope. Take this. A massive wooden club swung down toward me. Oh, not bad. As I drew the stick sword from my waist to parry, that thought crossed my mind. Clang! No matter how hard they gritted their teeth and swung with both hands, it was useless. It wasn't Zeus or Poseidon wielding it. The other one glanced at the grin on my face and flew into a wild rage, charging toward me. Gigantification, brute strength, rapid regeneration, divine blessing from the earth, and so on. Damn it! Don't underestimate us, Hades. Wait, Eurydice, don't charge in recklessly. Oh, right. Smiling on the battlefield is considered rude, isn't it? Looks like they're very angry. But, slash, splatter. Artist, how could I not laugh at the foolish hope that you can defeat me? You should be running for your lives, not trying to fight me. Did you think you could defeat me just because I'm not wearing my helm of invisibility? In an all-out war, I might lose. But this is just a skirmish. The prophecy won't activate here. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Watching the dead finish off the remaining Gigantes, I sensed the presence of a god approaching quickly. Flying down from the sky. Was it Hermes? Hermes, holding his caduceus, swiftly surveyed the surroundings and locked eyes with me. The messenger god approached with a somewhat relieved expression. Uncle Hades, did the Gigantes attack? Yes, I believe this is Gaia's strike, as foretold by Prometheus' prophecy. They came to steal Typhon's body. If you hadn't been here, things would have been very dangerous. Hermes continued surveying the area, then looked up at the summit of Mount Etna in shock. I may have blown part of it away during the fight. Gasp! The entire summit. Was that you, Uncle? It was a mistake. We were this close to having Typhon's body unleashed. I had tried to minimize the impact on Typhon's seal, but those creatures were stronger than I anticipated. But I doubt Prometheus' prophecy ends here. I summoned the forces of the underworld earlier. I suspect that the prophecy implies we'll win by connecting the underworld to this realm. That's one way to interpret it, but something about it feels off to me. Hermes frowned, deep in thought. Could this really not be the attack mentioned in the prophecy? For now, head to the underworld and report the situation at Mount Etna. Also, tell them that we've killed all the enemies, so no reinforcements are needed. Are you going to check on Typhon's seal? I'll inspect it for a while. Let Olympus know not to worry, and have them prepare for any other attacks elsewhere. There could be more of Gaia's forces, a hidden ambush, or remnants of the Gigantes. It's better that I personally handle the seal. This is a crucial point, being the location of Typhon's seal. I'll also need to check the condition of Mount Etna and reinforce it with my divine power. And stop by Demeter's to ask if she's found the Gigantes' base. Understood. I'll ask her myself. She's my mother. The blonde-haired goddess, who had been listening to my conversation with Hermes, suddenly interrupted. With sparkling eyes, she looked at me. Are you Demeter's daughter? Yes. And my father is Lord Zeus. Demeter and Zeus' daughter? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. After Hermes left, I stood face to face with the blonde-haired goddess. Her smile seemed to invite me to ask any questions I might have, reminding me of someone. Hermes can handle the message. There's no need for you to ask Demeter. Hades' uncle. But still, if I tell my mother myself, enough. Since you're Zeus and Demeter's daughter, feel free to call me uncle. Yes, Uncle Hades. The golden-haired goddess responded with a beaming smile, like a warm spring day. Why is she so happy about that? Well, I suppose I do hold a certain status. So, what should I call you, niece? Call me Kore. Everyone close to me does. A nickname? Why are you asking me to use your nickname? We've only just met today. What's your name? Call me Kore. I mean your real name, not the nickname. She pouted for a moment, but then smiled brightly and replied. I'm Persephone, Uncle Hades. What did you say? For a moment, it felt like I had been struck in the head with a club. A long-forgotten memory of my past life came flooding back, like a river bursting its banks. If I recall correctly, wasn't Persephone Hades' wife in my past life? The god of love, Eros, son of Aphrodite and Ares. During archery practice, he accidentally shot Hades with an arrow of love. Just as Hades saw Persephone, he fell for her and kidnapped her to the underworld. Uncle Hades, what are you thinking about? Is there anything I can help you with? Could it be that Eros is practicing his archery somewhere around here? Realizing this, I quickly used my divine power to sense the surroundings. Whoosh dash. Soon, I detected an arrow flying toward me from a short distance. Love, that fiery and intense emotion, always comes suddenly, without warning. That's why Eros arrows are fast and stealthy. However, if you're already on guard, it's not something you can't dodge. I quickly twisted my body to avoid the arrow coming from behind. Whoosh dash. Wait, if I dodge the arrow, in that direction is... thump. Ah. Finally noticing the golden arrow lodged in her chest, Persephone pulled it out. As the goddess touched the arrow, having fulfilled its purpose, it dissolved into the air. This is Eros' golden arrow. Eros, the god of love, took the form of a child carrying a bow and arrows. He possessed both golden arrows of love and lead arrows of hatred. The golden arrow caused anyone struck by it to fall madly in love with the first person they saw, while the lead arrow made them feel intense hatred for the first person they saw. Perhaps due to the nature of love, the arrow was swift and discreet, so the exhausted and battle-weary Persephone couldn't avoid it. It really was a golden arrow. Sigh. And now Persephone, who had just been struck by the golden arrow, looked at me. It seemed that I would now be loved by my niece. What do I do about this? As I stared in disbelief in the direction the arrow had come from, Persephone spoke. But I'm perfectly fine? Maybe it was a mistake? Even Zeus would fall in love if hit by that arrow. Though she was smiling at me now, pretending everything was normal, the emotion stirring inside her would soon overflow. I had clearly seen her get struck by Eros' arrow. I couldn't pretend it didn't happen. How on earth am I supposed to handle this? Her father is Zeus, the king of the gods, and her mother is Demeter, the goddess of the earth. One wrong move, and this could lead to a real war. But I'm really fine. By the way, are you heading back to the underworld now? I'll stay a bit longer to take care of things here before returning. The aftermath of the battle with the Gigantes had left the area in complete ruins. It looked as though Zeus' thunderbolt or Poseidon's trident had struck, with the land overturned everywhere and countless cracks riddling the earth. Mount Etna, which had sealed away Typhon, had been shattered by the force of my attack, and the once beautiful forests, plains, and streams of the landscape lay in a mangled mess. Most of the nymphs were either dead or had fled, nowhere to be seen. As I surveyed the destruction, the traces of nature's devastation enough to make Pan himself gasp, my niece reached out her hand. With that, I felt a warm and gentle divine power. Uncle Hades, let me help. I'm the goddess of spring and seeds, so I can do things like this. Swa. From Persephone's hand, a green wave spread, gently caressing the land. Grass grew beside the fallen trees, and the barren plain began to regain its color. Of course, the goddess of spring is far better suited to restoring the land than the ruler of the underworld like me. It would have been easier if Pan or Demeter were here, though. How did I do? Pretty good, right? I usually only use this when playing with the nymphs, but for something like this, yes, you did well. My niece, chatting away, seeking praise, was truly adorable. Even among the beautiful goddesses of Olympus, she stood out with her exceptional beauty. With her golden eyes and hair inherited from her father, Zeus, and her figure perfectly proportioned, any lustful male god would gladly welcome the fact that such a goddess had fallen for him. What are you thinking about while just standing there? Tell me too. But she's my niece. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Phew, it's all done. I've cleaned everything up, while I meticulously searched the surroundings for traces of the Gigantes. Persephone had managed to restore much of the ruined land. Well done. So now you're really going back to the underworld, right? I want to go too. I froze at the words that came out of Persephone's smiling mouth, blooming like a fully open flower. This is exactly the problem. Those struck by Eros' golden arrow fall into an absolute state of love. Not even Zeus, or Poseidon could resist the power of such emotions. Among the souls that came to the underworld, many have been struck by Eros' arrow during their lives, so I knew well its effects. If both parties confirm their love and one accepts it, it ends happily. But if one party refuses, or if social status differences prevent the love from being realized, they take up arms and kill those who stood in the way of their love, or weep bitterly and commit suicide, or clutch their bursting hearts and go mad, cursing the gods. The expression blinded by love is quite fitting. If I were to reject my niece outright, what would happen? I think you like me because of Eros Ero, but those are false feelings. I can't take you to the underworld. Well, what? Sob? Wah? No matter how much you cry, I can't take you to the underworld. If I die, I can go to the underworld, even if I have to die. Yes, the goddess would attempt suicide on the spot. If the goddess of spring and seeds, the daughter of Zeus and Demeter, threatened to kill herself at the gates of the underworld. Your Majesty, we have a problem. Yesterday it was snowing, but today the sun is scorching hot. The season of spring has vanished. The gods must be angry. Seeds are no longer sprouting. There must be some trouble among the gods. The world would be thrown into chaos because the goddess of spring and seeds had abandoned her duties. Naturally, her mother, Demeter, would— What? My daughter tried to kill herself to go to the underworld. What? She was struck by a golden arrow and fell for Hades. But he rejected her. The earth is completely dried up. After receiving a prophecy from Delphi, it is clear that the goddess Demeter is furious. No crops can grow on the earth anymore. O Zeus! Demeter is bound to do something drastic. She's not like a gentle deity such as Hestia. She's more in line with someone like Artemis. If her emotions run wild, the earth will dry up completely, and the number of humans arriving in the underworld will only increase. And that's not the end of it. Her father is Zeus, the king of the gods. So, Hades rejected Persephone, and as a result, she's trying to kill herself to go to the underworld. Yes, father. After speaking with Lady Demeter, Demeter abandoned her duties because of that? Yes. No matter that it's my brother Hades, he's gone too far this time. I'll have to talk to him. The underworld will be flooded with complaints, documents of protest raining down, and the souls of the starving will surge in. Mortals and immortals alike will curse the underworld. All the disasters I've just imagined in my head could happen if I don't bring my beautiful niece, who's now laughing foolishly in front of me, to the underworld. Uncle Hades? So can I go with you now? I've always been curious about what the underworld looks like, though she's smiling happily at me now. If I provoke her too much, chaos will descend upon the world. Staring at me like that is making me a little embarrassed. By Zeus. Good grief. I'd rather fight Father Kronos again. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. There's no choice. I'll have to take her to the underworld first and find a way to gently calm her down. All right. I suppose I can at least give you a tour. Follow me. Wow. Thank you, Uncle. Persephone threw her arms around me. Do I accept this? If I don't, she might cry, asking if I don't like her. Sigh. I could feel her soft figure and the fresh scent of spring against my chest, tickling my nose. This is driving me insane. Is this really happening? Am I really taking my niece, struck by Eros arrow, to the underworld? Enough with the hugging. Get on the chariot. Your chest is so broad. Can't I stay like this? It's uncomfortable. Sit beside me. Okay. With Persephone happily sitting beside me, we headed to the entrance of the underworld. Wow, these horses are so cute. Snort. Stop petting the ghost horses' manes. A goddess with energy completely opposite to theirs suddenly stroking them from behind is confusing them. We somehow arrived in the underworld with her. Even in the dark landscape of the underworld, Persephone showed no fear, only gazing around with curiosity. Wow, there's a cute dog here too? That's Cerberus, the child of Typhon. I brought him here and made him the guardian of the underworld. Growl? Snarl? The three-headed dog was bewildered by the goddess who suddenly took an interest in him and petted him incessantly. The fearsome gatekeeper of the underworld, trying to gauge the relationship between me and Persephone, eventually rolled over, showing his belly. Pant, pant. Uncle Hades. Look, he's so soft. He might look soft, but he's still a powerful monster. He could probably tear apart a few Gigantes if he wanted to. For now, I have a lot of work to do, so wait in this room. If you need anything, ask the attendant. Okay, oh wow. Did you make this too? Snarl. Pant, pant. I need to discuss the Gigantes with the other gods, so I'll leave her with the attendants for now and come back later. I also need to catch up on the backlog of trials and check on the current state of the underworld. Lord Hades, you've arrived at just the right time. There are urgent matters that require your approval. Morpheus, is it about the souls again? Ah, if you could take a look here. We'll need to discuss this with the other gods. I had a brief conversation about work with Morpheus and signed off on some documents. He hurried off, saying it was time to deliver dreams to humans. Now, I headed back to the room to fetch Persephone. Crunch, munch, and there she was, my adorable niece, eating a pomegranate from a small dish. Who put a pomegranate in this room? Was this originally a resting area for other gods? Wait a minute. According to the laws of the underworld, anyone who eats the food here. Uncle Hades, you should try this. The fruit is so fresh, even though it's from the underworld. As I watched her, with red pomegranate juice dripping from her lips, I put a hand to my head. Oh, damn it. Persephone, do you know what it means to eat the food of the underworld? What? I'm not supposed to eat it? I'm sorry. Persephone's expression quickly turned gloomy. The underworld is a world completely different from the living realm, so it has its own set of rules. These rules are carefully kept in a parchment infused with divine power. The laws of the underworld. Article 1, Clause 1. Once dead, one cannot come back to life. Article 1, Clause 2. All the dead must undergo judgment to clear their karma from the living world. Article 5, Clause 2. Article 5, Clause 3. Anyone who has eaten the food of the underworld, even once, must live here. The case that applies to Persephone is this Clause 5, Section 3. It doesn't mean she can never leave the living realm, but it does mean she must make the underworld her residence. Even gods are bound by this law, which is why God sent temporarily to the underworld never touch its food. Neither Athena, Ares, nor Aphrodite ate anything while in the underworld. Well, anyone who eats the food of the underworld must live here. Huh? Is that so? So now I'll be living with Uncle. Since Persephone had been struck by Eros' golden arrow, she didn't seem to mind. But what would Demeter or Zeus think? Wait a minute. She may be a young goddess who hasn't even lived for 300 years, but could she really be unaware of the laws of the underworld? Did she eat it on purpose? The position of queen of the underworld naturally comes with power and authority, and if struck by Eros' golden arrow, Persephone would especially. For now, just follow me. Don't leave my sight. Okay, it seems better if I just keep her with me. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I took her with me as I carried out my duties. For losing your chastity and being cast out of Artemis' followers, leading to your death, may the God of mercy be glorified. Thank you, Lord Pluto. While listening to the pleas of the unjustly deceased and racking my brain to deliver fair judgments, Persephone wore a face full of questions. After finishing the pile of trials, she approached me. Uncle Hades, why are you so merciful to humans? Merciful? Yes. It seems like you show mercy even to humans who have insulted or acted arrogantly towards the gods. Her eyes were filled not with mockery or dissatisfaction, but with pure curiosity. The kind of thought an innocent young god born under a high divine status, raised without want, might have. With divine power and authority as formidable as hers, a god's pride in maintaining the balance of the world and their sense of superiority over humans. This isn't just a Persephone issue. Most gods likely think the same way. You do well to rid yourself of that mindset. Huh? What? The underworld is where mortals meet their end, their final destination. If I were harsh to them, what then? But aren't we gods to be revered by them? If I simply don't use my power of spring, humans would. Young gods, despite their innocence, possess great power, and because of this, they can sometimes seem capricious and harsh to humans. Born to be worshipped, with the abilities and lineage to match, Persephone, of all gods, would surely think this way. Demeter and Zeus sometimes treat humans harshly too. Seems like she takes after her parents quite a bit. Just like a goddess who governs one of the seasons. But I'm the goddess of spring and seeds. That's not what I meant. I meant that even your smallest actions could seem like a natural disaster to humans. As I looked into Persephone's eyes full of questions, I continued speaking. I hope what I've seen and felt in the underworld can help you. Even a little. We gods are not perfect beings. Even Zeus and Athena can make mistakes. My father and the goddess of wisdom, there are no perfect gods. So be cautious when using your powers based on a momentary whim or fleeting thought. Uncle Hades, one of the three ruling gods. Have you ever had regrets? More times than I can count. After living for so many long years, how could I show only a perfect image? No matter how much I'm called the god of mercy or the just ruler of the underworld, I've regretted passing wrong judgments by mistake, and there were times when I was overcome by emotion. Oh, when you are enraged, it might seem insignificant that mortals perish as a result of the fallout from your anger. But remember that for them, it is an unavoidable catastrophe. It is those unjustly killed who come to the underworld. Persephone, deep in thought about my words, causes her free-spirited divine power to ripple intensely. Had she realized her role? Perhaps she was beginning to grasp the responsibility that came with her domain. As gods, we must always strive to make the best possible decisions, though we cannot always achieve this. I've never heard anything like this from my mother before. Persephone quietly murmured while staring at the ground. At this moment, I could sense her growth, albeit faint. The once lively and energetic Persephone's power seemed to calm and settle. Spring, one of the 4 seasons, became a little more stable, and the seeds scattered on the earth would grow well. I will assign you a temporary residence for now, and I should inform your mother of this. Hades, we got a serious problem. Right now, in the underworld, the goddess Styx burst through the door, rushing towards me. Could it be another Gigantes attack? In the underworld, the soul of the deceased Chiron has arrived. Chiron, a centaur with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a horse, and a wise sage. He was skilled in all sorts of arts and possessed great knowledge, but his greatest strength was in teaching. He was the one responsible for raising many heroes in the living world. If Chiron had died, it would become much more difficult to raise the hero prophesied to defeat the Gigantes. I will meet him immediately. But wasn't he an immortal being? Yes, but he was tortured by the Gigantes who suddenly attacked, and he voluntarily gave up his immortality. This is terrible. Only a few hundred Gigantes had come targeting Typhon on Mount Etna, but for them to split their forces and manage to kill Chiron, just like when they corrupted Oedipus, could Gaia be targeting the heroes? Could Gaia have learned of the prophecy we gods know? No, if she were certain, she would have declared full-scale war by now. It's likely she has some inkling that a hero is connected to the Gigantes, but maybe she's not completely convinced yet. Luckily, she doesn't have the ability to see all futures. Not even Prometheus possesses such a skill. With Persephone and the goddess Styx, I hurried to meet Chiron. Yes, niece, you'd better stay where I can see you. Soon, the transparent figure of Chiron's soul came into view. He had really died and come to the underworld. Chiron, Lord Hades, it's been a long time. I regret that we're meeting under such circumstances. When I spoke, the centaur lowered his head with a bitter expression. I heard the Gigantes tortured you. Rest peacefully here now. I feel guilty, as though I fled to death after failing to properly train the heroes. Who could endure torture from monsters that rival gods? Thank you, Lord of the Underworld. They even killed the students I was teaching due to Chiron's widespread fame. His place was always filled with those aspiring to become heroes. However, when the Gigantes suddenly attacked, countless people were slaughtered. Chiron and his disciples resisted, but they couldn't defeat creatures that were each as powerful as lesser gods. According to him, many of his students were either killed or fled. I only learned after coming to the underworld, but fortunately, Lord Dionysus and Lord Ares descended and drove them out. While you were in the living realm, Corinth and Athens were also attacked. It seems they appeared in many places. The Olympian gods descended and killed the Gigantes, but the damage was still severe. Rather than killing ordinary humans, they seemed to focus on destroying temples and severing the connection between mortals and gods. They especially targeted heroes or demigods, After Chiron finished speaking, Thanatos and the other gods offered additional details. The Gigantes had attacked human cities, including Corinth and Athens. Many heroes were killed in this attack. Athena descended in haste, but I hear her temple was partially destroyed. What does Olympus think of this incident? I motion for the gods to stop sharing their opinions. The goddess of the rainbow will probably descend soon and summon me to Olympus. Until then, we will maintain our usual vigilance. Shouldn't we make some preparations, though? Demeter is with us. Ah, the goddess of the earth has the Omphalos stone, so she must have pinpointed the Gigantes' base by now. Though the Gigantes' last attack succeeded in killing Chiron, it had, in turn, revealed their base to us. Demeter must have informed Zeus by now, and the other gods are surely monitoring the Gigantes' hideout. The Gigantes can no longer launch an attack without being detected by the gods. All that remains for them is full-scale war or Gaia's schemes. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. From earlier, Persephone hadn't interrupted at all, simply watching with sparkling eyes. At least she wasn't disturbing me while I worked. Did my earlier words affect her state of mind? The goddess Lethe tilted her head and looked at Persephone before asking, "Hades, who is that goddess who's been here for a while now? She doesn't seem to be a lesser deity." "Oh, I'm Persephone. I didn't want to be falsely accused of tricking a goddess into the underworld, so I'd better explain now. If you stay quiet, unnecessary misunderstandings tend to arise. She's the daughter of Demeter and Zeus, whom I met near Mount Etna. By the way, she was struck by Eros' golden arrow and saw me, and she's also eaten food from the underworld." "What? Struck by Eros' golden arrow? Wait, does that mean... Does Demeter know about this?" I plan to explain everything directly when I ascend to Olympus soon. The expressions of the many gods gathered here changed. Even if they stared at me, there was nothing I could do. I had to bring her along briefly, because I urgently needed to receive reports of the Gigantes' attacks. Not only near Mount Etna, I'm perfectly fine, even after being hit by the golden arrow. Sure. Ugh, I'm serious. You saved me before I got hit by the arrow. So take responsibility. What? Hades, why is it that every time you leave, another goddess ends up coming back with you? Before this gets out of hand, everyone quickly glanced at the goddess Styx and the goddess Lethe. They also noticed Mint, who had arrived late, frozen in the doorway. As the room fell silent, Persephone suddenly began to tear up and speak. "Hades, you touched me so gently back then. I don't care. You have to take responsibility." What did you say? Wait, am I getting old and losing my hearing? Should I go see Apollo? Who touched who? Hades, what did you do? Why is everyone acting like this toward me? This is a misunderstanding. Persephone, even though you've grown as a goddess, you still have the lively personality of spring. Niece, you're saying strange things because I held you by the side and set you down in the chariot when the Gigantes were strangling you. That's the same thing. I want to marry Hades. Hades, did you really only set her down in the chariot without touching her? The issue now isn't the Gigantes. Spill everything. Hades, I don't mind being a concubine, but if there are too many, the underworld has always been chaotic. But lately, it seems even more so. Could this be some kind of curse from Gaia? Hades, the rainbow goddess Iris has arrived. She was likely dispatched from Olympus about the Gigantes. Bring her in immediately. She must have come to summon me to the upcoming meeting at Olympus. We need to discuss the Gigantes and figure out how to explain things to Demeter. Amid the chaos of the underworld, the rainbow goddess Iris arrived. I greet the lord of the underworld. As she entered, Iris stopped speaking and looked around at the situation, her eyes widening. Seeing her reaction, Moros, the god of inevitable death, spoke nonchalantly. He had been standing with his arms crossed, leaning against the wall of my office for some time now. "Oh, Iris, don't be alarmed. This is just the usual scene in the underworld. Lord Moros, what exactly is going on here? It's really nothing. Just the daughter of Demeter and Zeus, who was struck by Eros' golden arrow, ate food from the underworld, and is now involved in a quarrel with 3 goddesses who all like Hades. Whose daughter did you say? The rainbow goddess's face turned pale, and the seven-colored halo she always Fortunately, thanks to Iris arriving in the underworld at just the right time, the situation was brought under control. Everyone seemed to be willing to move past it for now. Iris, did they seek me from Olympus? Yes. Lord Zeus has requested your presence on Olympus, Lord Hades. Chiron's death. It must be Gaia's blow foretold in Prometheus's prophecy. Only the wise centaur could raise heroes in preparation for the Gigantes. An Olympian god cannot directly train heroes in the mortal world, nor can they easily find a suitable candidate among the mortals without raising doubts about their abilities. The prophecy said to connect the underworld and the mortal realm, so I suppose I'll have to discuss the details with Zeus. Very well. This isn't just an issue for the underworld, so I can't make decisions on my own. I'll need to go up to Olympus to hear what Demeter has to say about the Gigantes base and to deliver news about her daughter Persephone. Have a safe trip, Uncle Hades. Safe trip? This isn't even your house. Oh, what's the big deal? I'll be living here now. I've never seen a god adapt to the underworld so quickly. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Ignoring the odd sounds behind me, I followed Iris to Olympus. It seemed that all the gods had gathered in the center of the Olympian palace, as I could sense their presence concentrated there. Zeus has gathered all the gods. Passing through the grand golden gates and walking on the clouds, I saw a large crowd of gods murmuring. Zeus, holding a thunderbolt and seated on a golden throne, had his eyes closed. Poseidon was speaking with Hera. The immortals of Olympus were buzzing about the Gigantes and the prophecy. Chiron, the wise centaur, was tortured to death by the Gigantes. Then who will raise heroes now? It's difficult to find an educator of his caliber. The prophecy said to connect the mortal realm and the underworld. Shouldn't Lord Hades make an exception for Chiron? No matter the prophecy, how could the dead be? This isn't for me to decide. They say Typhon's body almost broke free. If that monstrous thing had fallen back into Gaia's hands. Phew. So, this was the blow the prophecy spoke of, a painful loss indeed. It seems the meeting hasn't even begun, but the mood is already grim. Step. Lord Hades, you have arrived, Uncle. Walking through the crowd. No, through a sea of gods. The deities recognized me and stepped aside to let me pass. Sensing my presence, Zeus opened his eyes and cleared his throat. Ahem. Now that my brother Hades has arrived, let us begin the meeting. Hermes. Yes, sir. Hermes brought out a large scroll and spread it wide in the air. A map of the entire world appeared before us, marked with red dots indicating the places hit by the Gigantes' attacks. A short while ago, the Gigantes launched a massive invasion. As you can see on the map, their targets were Corinth, Athens, Chiron's residence, and Mount Etna. At Zeus's words, the red dots on the map glowed. With simultaneous attacks like these, Hermes must have been the only one to descend during the assault on Mount Etna. If I hadn't been there, Mount Etna was taken care of by my brother Hades, Athens by Athena, and Corinth by Apollo. But there is one place we overlooked. As the king of the gods lowered his voice, lightning flickered from his body, reflecting his emotions. A subtle but powerful aura spread out with it. As all the gods here are aware, the wise centaur Chiron was captured, tortured, and relinquished his immortality. Crackle. Zeus's eyes were covered with blue lightning, and thunderclouds began to form. The thunder god's majestic fury radiated, engulfing Olympus. Sweat trickled down the foreheads of the lesser gods, and even those privileged with golden thrones were visibly uneasy. Zeus, who had always held Chiron in high esteem, was consumed with anger over his death. It was Poseidon who managed to calm him. Zeus, Chiron's fate is truly tragic, but please, control yourself. I apologize to everyone. Ahem. Now, setting that aside for a moment, we have located their base using the Omphalos stone. Demeter. The Gigantes are in the Plestra plains of the Thrace region. I could sense power from the earth that wasn't mine coming from that area, so it's certain. Apollo and Athena are currently monitoring those planes. The Gigantes won't be able to attack us again. Discussions about the Gigantes continued for a while. Ideas such as completely destroying their base, or Poseidon drowning them with water, were proposed. Even a suggestion to split the land and turn it into an island was made, but they were all dismissed due to the possibility of an all-out war. The conversation eventually circled back to, ultimately, to defeat the Gigantes, we need a hero. Hades, what do you think about reviving Chiron? Once again, the topic returned to Chiron. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. When Poseidon's opinion was voiced, everyone turned their attention to what I had to say. Reviving Chiron, this would be breaking the laws of the underworld that have lasted for eons. This is different from the case of Sisyphus. He was sent to the underworld unjustly before his time was up, which is why I sent him back. But in Chiron's case, he voluntarily gave up his immortality and chose death. If we revive the dead because they have unfinished business in the living world, what meaning is there in the boundary between life and death? And what if Gaia intervenes again and kills Chiron, even if we bring him back? Even though we've tightly sealed off the planes, their base of operations? If a hero driven mad by Gaia's whispers wields a cursed or poisoned weapon, Chiron might give up his immortality again. Chiron is not a being as powerful as us gods. While his teaching skills are remarkable, his actual combat abilities are no greater than those of a human hero. Even if we restore his immortality, one poison arrow or a curse from a god, it would indeed be cruel to Chiron. If he were revived and attacked again, he could face a second death. We can't keep assigning gods to guard him all the time, but the reality is that there is no one else qualified for the task. Could you reconsider, brother? I pondered Zeus' serious words once more. Prometheus' prophecy clearly stated that we could win if we connected the living world with the underworld. But the reason the gods aren't mentioning that part and are focusing on Chiron is simple. If Gaia focuses her power on the connection between the underworld and the living world, it could open Tartarus, where countless titans are imprisoned. According to Hermes, there are at least thousands of Gigantes visible on the plains. No matter how powerful I am as one of the three major gods, I can't face thousands of lesser gods, dozens of Olympians, and one primordial being all by myself. If, in the effort to train heroes, the underworld falls and Tartarus is opened, we will lose instantly. There must be another way. A way for Chiron to teach heroes, even though he's dead, without drawing Gaia's attention. What of this? I will connect the underworld and the living world, and Chiron will train living heroes from the dead. As you might guess, brother, it's too dangerous to interpret Prometheus' words so literally. What if I create a small passageway in Thebes, my territory, where Gaia's influence can't reach? If the majority of a city's inhabitants worship one god, the city becomes part of that god's domain. A prime example is Athens, which belongs entirely to Athena. Inside such a city, not even Gaia, the Earth Mother, can communicate her will to humans. When King Oedipus went mad, Gaia could only influence him from the mountains outside Thebes. Gaia can't reach into Thebes. We could send out an oracle telling those who wish to become heroes to go to Thebes, and appoint a suitable representative as your proxy in the city. Then bring the most promising candidates to Hades' temple for training in the underworld. Exactly. If we connect the outer edges of the underworld with my temple in Thebes and only allow worthy individuals through. The room fell silent, but one by one, the gods nodded in agreement. What if we appoint the king of Thebes as the representative, train the aspiring heroes there, and bring the most promising ones to Hades' temples? We'll need Omphalos stone to maintain a permanent connection between the underworld and the living world. And the heroes who cross into the underworld must swear an oath on the river Styx. Normally, once a mortal enters the underworld, they cannot leave. But if they swear an oath on the river Styx with strict limitations, it might be allowed. The oaths would prevent them from speaking of what they've seen. And if they attempt to return to the underworld, they'll be cast into Tartarus. We'll restrict them from setting foot in any area of the underworld besides the outer canyons, and they'll be forbidden from contacting any souls. All right. Let's summarize the plan. How does this sound as a strategy against the Gigantes? Zeus closed his eyes, listening to the gods, and silenced the room. A small bolt of lightning extended from his hand, inscribing words onto the parchment. The summary went something like this. 1. An oracle will be sent to the mortals, summoning those who wish to become heroes to Thebes. 2. The king of Thebes will receive the oracle and establish a training center to raise heroes. 3. Those who stand out in the training center will quietly be moved to Hades' temple and taken to the underworld. 4. In the underworld's outer edges, these heroes will be trained by the deceased Chiron and, when ready, return to the living world. 4-1. The heroes and any associated individuals must swear an oath on the river Styx, binding them with numerous restrictions, including a vow of silence. 4-2. To maintain the connection between the living world and the underworld, the Omphalos stone will be temporarily loaned to Hades. Brother, can I leave the finer details in your hands? Of course. With this, the living and the dead will be connected, and we will be able to achieve victory, just as Prometheus' prophecy foretold. If you need any assistance, do not hesitate to call upon Olympus. Hermes, Iris, you two will be responsible. We will not lose to the Gigantes. We will be victorious, no matter what. Asterisk. After the meeting, I walked over to Demeter. I needed to tell her about her daughter, Persephone. The stern goddess with her yellowish hair stopped when she saw me approaching. What do you want with me, Hades? Demeter, your daughter Persephone is currently in the underworld. What? So, the Gigantes aren't the real issue here. If you don't release my daughter immediately, good grief. She completely loses her mind the moment her daughter is mentioned. This is exactly why I didn't send a messenger and came in person. I need to get straight to the point and clear up this misunderstanding quickly. There's nothing I can do. She was struck by Eros' golden arrow, saw me, and she's already eaten food in the underworld. What H Hades? It's not the kind of kidnapping you think it is, so calm down. Demeter's face flushed red as she pointed a finger at me. Hades, did you conspire with Eros to shoot an arrow at my daughter? I swear I didn't. I dodged a golden arrow that flew at me from behind, but unfortunately, it ended up hitting Persephone. Then why did you take her to the underworld and make her eat food there? In the end, you're no different from Zeus or Poseidon. What? You're comparing me to those scoundrels? No matter how enraged she was because her daughter ended up in the underworld, comparing me to them was too much. Phew. No, I need to calm down. Think about it rationally. Do I seem like the kind of god who would scheme against a daughter I didn't even know existed? This was all a coincidence. Ugh. So, are you saying this was all Eros' fault? But no matter what, how could Eros have the nerve to shoot an arrow at you? Gods do not interfere with each other's realms. Even if one commits a wrongdoing or lacks the qualities of a god is still a god. If Poseidon were to fall into despair and let everything go, the sea creatures would gradually die. If Ares stopped initiating wars, the number of mortals would increase excessively. If Aphrodite's love was suppressed for being too free-spirited, no new mortals would be born. Not interfering with another god's realm is an unspoken rule among the gods. Because of this, if a god's personality is unpredictable, it often causes trouble for other gods. However, the higher the divinity, the more lenient this unspoken rule becomes. Few dare challenge the three gods who rule the world. This is why Dike, the goddess of justice, cannot point out the crimes of those with high divinity. Demeter was referring to just that. Eros must have made a mistake while practicing archery. A mistake. Right after your daughter was struck by the arrow, I looked all around, but Eros was nowhere to be found. What? No, even so, such a coincidence is unlikely. Unless Demeter, who had been standing still to catch her breath, turned red again and gathered clouds to fly off somewhere. Could she be going to confront Eros? Or complain to Zeus? I quickly followed after her. Asterisk. Aphrodite, did you have your son Eros shoot an arrow? What? Why are you accusing me? What's even going on in the first place? When I rushed over riding a cloud, I saw Demeter arguing with Aphrodite at her residence. I guess what I had said to Aphrodite last time worked. Beside her wasn't Ares, but Hephaestus. Well, even if they don't get along, they are still married. At least in official settings, it's proper for them to appear together. A little further away, Hephaestus looked at me with a puzzled expression, as if to ask what was going on. Uncle, what's this about Eros's arrow now? It's nothing. Eros shot a golden arrow at me. I dodged, but it hit Demeter's daughter. What? That? Did that really happen? This is the first I'm hearing about it. So you didn't order it either? Was it really Eros acting on his own? If I really did plan something like that, I would have told him to shoot when I was passing in front of Hades. After hearing my explanation to Hephaestus, it seemed Aphrodite and Demeter's misunderstanding was resolved. But what did she mean by shoot when passing in front of someone? I glanced at Aphrodite, and she sheepishly avoided my gaze. No, I was just saying, quiet, just call your son here. We need to find out if it was really an accident or one of Eros's pranks. Fine, I'll go ask Eros. Aphrodite muttered irritably and went off to fetch her son. As I watched Demeter, who stood waiting with her arms crossed, Hephaestus called out to me from beside her. Uncle, does that mean Persephone fell in love with you? It seems so. You know her as well? She seems to be quite a young goddess. My nephew truly seemed young. Eros hadn't been born for long either. How old could Persephone be? 200? 300 years at most? I live in the halls of Olympus, so I've heard of the goddess of spring and seeds, though I've never seen her at the feasts. What rumors? They say she is incredibly beautiful. Having inherited her parents looks perfectly. I see. Is she really that beautiful? I heard her golden hair and eyes are as lovely as the color of grain blessed by Demeter. Is he fond of all beautiful goddesses? Well, he hasn't had a proper relationship with Aphrodite after all. Ugh, I'm truly jealous, Uncle. I swear, this must be Aphrodite's blessing upon you. My niece falling in love with me is not exactly something to celebrate. What? Why is it a problem? Persephone's parents are siblings, and most of the gods of Olympus were born from unions between family members. Judging by the bewilderment in the blacksmith god's eyes, it was clear he genuinely didn't understand my point. In fact, sometimes even Athena looks beautiful to me. Don't you think so too, Uncle? Hephaestus? Her impressive figure is undeniable, even with the armor and helmet she always wears. Yes. Let's stop this nonsense here. Understood. Of course, Lady Lethe or Lady Styx are also distant relatives. But Persephone is too close of a blood relative. Even if incest isn't considered a sin among the gods, this feels a bit wrong. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Eros' golden arrow really was a mistake. One of the arrows he shot while wandering around outside of the Olympian palace had, unfortunately, flown in this direction. It was a real mistake. The arrow flew towards Mount Etna, but I didn't think it would actually hit someone. Aphrodite, who had fully grasped the situation, scolded her son with her hands on her hips. Judging by the red mark on Eros' forehead, she had already given him a few whacks. I've told you so many times. Practice your archery on designated targets only. I'm sorry. You may be a young god, but just saying sorry isn't enough after hitting my daughter, is it? Eros looked pitiful, holding his cute little bow, thoroughly dispirited. Though he appeared to be about 5 or 6 years old from a human perspective, he had small white wings on his back. I told you that arrows are dangerous and should only be used when absolutely necessary. And you keep doing this? I got it, but mother, this kid, what is it now? What about me? You told me to shoot a golden arrow when passing in front of Lord Hades. So why am I the only one being scolded? What? Demeter, whose anger had not yet subsided, looked at Aphrodite with an expression of disbelief. So it turns out the son is just like the mother. Titus, this is a misunderstanding. PFT, misunderstanding my foot. Not too long ago, you also told me to try to shoot Lord Hades. MMPH. Oh dear. What nonsense is this child saying? The goddess of beauty, wearing an awkward smile, hastily covered her son's mouth. using Eros now, and not just content with wearing the cestus. Are you? If Eros arrow comes flying next time, I'll consider it your doing. Tethys, it's all your fault, Hades. How could you ignore the goddess of beauty who wants you so badly? Even once. Seeing Aphrodite, her face flushed, suddenly blaming me, made me feel a headache coming on. Really, a married woman, who even has a lover, should behave like this? It's all Hades' fault anyway. With that, Aphrodite flew away hastily, tears welling up in her eyes. Luckily, Hephaestus wasn't here to witness this. If he had seen this, wouldn't we have witnessed a different version of the Ares and Aphrodite episode that happened during the last art festival? The god of blacksmiths might have ended up joining Gaia, shedding tears of blood. The goddess of the earth, who had been watching Aphrodite's retreating figure, seemed to come to a realization, nodding as she mumbled. Now I see, Hades, you really weren't trying to pull anything with my daughter. I never thought there'd be a man capable of refusing the goddess of beauty's advances. It seems like it was better to be in the underworld, struggling with endless paperwork. Anyway, I apologize for misunderstanding you. All right, now that you understand, it's fine. I then turned my gaze to Eros, who stood there with drooping wings and a dejected expression. It might have been a mistake, but it seems necessary to teach him not to shoot love arrows carelessly. Can I go now, Lord Hades? Eros, if you need a place to practice archery, the underworld can provide it. Really? Come to the underworld later, and I'll let you shoot to your heart's content. Wow, really? I'll be right there. Without knowing what awaited him, Eros flew away happily. Since Aphrodite also holds the authority over love, the balance of the world shouldn't be affected too much even if Eros stays in the underworld for a long time. Finally, I can lessen the burden on the souls responsible for tormenting major sinners day and night. I'll make sure he learns not to shoot arrows carelessly again, even if it means shooting until his fingers fall off. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Even if it's because of Eros' arrow that she fell in love with you, I must still try to convince Kore. Do as you wish. I was about to return to the underworld, so get in the chariot, my daughter eating the food of the underworld. As we were about to descend to the underworld together, someone approached, walking on the clouds. A mighty divine presence comparable to my own, a male god with blue hair. It was my brother, Poseidon, the lord of the sea, who looked at us with eyes full of regret. I had a bad feeling about this. Demeter spoke to him. Poseidon, what brings you here this time? Ahem, ahem. Demeter, I heard your daughter had gone missing, so I came to offer my condolences. Where did you hear that? And what kind of condolences are you talking about? Cough. Seems I've arrived a little late. Humph. Anyway, I'll be going. Poseidon glanced at Demeter regretfully before disappearing. Demeter's daughter had been playing near Mount Etna when she boarded my chariot to head to the underworld. Poseidon must have heard that from the nearby nymphs. Condolences, huh? Condolences? Knowing Poseidon, he wouldn't have simply intended to offer comfort through conversation. Could it be that he thought Demeter, grieving over her missing daughter, would be vulnerable to comfort of a different kind? For a moment, silence fell between us. Soon, realizing the same thing as me, Demeter clenched her fists and gnashed her teeth. Zeus, Poseidon, they're all the same. All male gods are just alike. That's an insult. This was the current state of Olympus, the place where the gods, revered and feared by all mortals, resided. Thus, with Demeter, I crossed the entrance to the underworld on a chariot. I've only heard about it, but that must be the famous iron vessel of Charon. Demeter, what brings you to the underworld? We met Charon as he paddled, carrying souls on the Acheron River. KRRGRRNG? A monster descended from Typhon? Was this always in the underworld? I infused my power into it to make it a divine beast, so it's safe. We also saw Cerberus guarding the entrance to the underworld. Pick up that piece of parchment floating by over there. Damn it. Souls have increased lately because of that Gigani's attack. We're running out of living space. Seeing the exhausted administrators of the underworld, Demeter sighed deeply and spoke to me. Her face was etched with deep concern. How could Kore live in such a place? Together with Demeter, we went to where Persephone resided. Surprisingly, my niece was quite calm. Unlike the mischievous demeanor she often showed me, she was quietly weaving. The moment Demeter spotted her, she rushed over and embraced her. Kore, how lonely must you have been in this cold, dark underworld? Now that I'm here, we can go back. I'm not lonely at all, mother. Please, stop treating me like a child. How can you stay in this dark underworld when you're so young? I've eaten food here, and I want to live with Uncle Hades in the underworld. Persephone pouted and gently pushed Demeter away. Though Persephone is quite a powerful deity, Demeter's overprotectiveness seemed a bit much. That's because of Eros' arrow. What you're feeling isn't normal. I swear on the river Styx, nothing has changed in me. And I wanted to marry Lord Hades even before I was struck. What? Sigh. Demeter turned to look at me sharply. An oath on the river Styx. Even Eros' arrows aren't powerful enough to create memories that never existed. The golden arrow's power. It makes you vividly remember the exact moment you fell in love. Therefore, what she says is true. If someone already in love gets struck by a golden arrow, maybe that love grows even stronger, or perhaps it rekindles love that had begun to fade. So, Persephone didn't fall in love because of Eros' arrow, but her momentary affection turned into an unchanging love. Forever. Demeter looked at Persephone with a heartbroken expression. Persephone quietly hugged her mother. Kore, why of all beings did you have to fall for the Lord of the Underworld? Well, I was in a situation where a Gigantes had grabbed my throat, and he saved me. Grabbed by the throat by a Gigantes? Are you all right now? That must have been during the attack on Mount Etna. Oh, come on, Mom, I told you Uncle Hades saved me just in time. Demeter checked Persephone for injuries, infusing her with divine power, looking at her with worry. Anyway, what's necessary needs to be sorted out. Eros, love? For now, you've eaten food of the underworld, so by law, you must stay here. Hades? But Persephone, aren't you the goddess of spring and seeds? If you stay here forever, the balance of the world will be affected. The laws of the underworld were originally made to maintain the world's balance. If the goddess of the seasons were entirely confined to the underworld, the living world would be in danger. Uncle, do you hate me? I swear it wasn't because of the golden arrow. Swearing on the river Styx makes that true. Since you've eaten underworld food, you should live here. But do you realize how important your role is in the living world? But still, think about what I said recently. You are the goddess of one of the 4 seasons and of seeds. She lowered her gaze, her voice trailing off. Fine, I'll go up to the living world from time to time. All right, what a relief. But instead of going down to the underworld sometimes, you'll go up to the living world? Does that mean she plans to spend most of her time in the underworld? I'll only go to the living world when I'm needed as the goddess of spring. You, better Hades than some of the other gods who covet beauty, at least. Thankfully, it seems spring won't disappear from the living world. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. To convey the results of the Olympus meeting and also discuss Persephone's situation, I gathered all the gods of the underworld in the conference room. Although many had already seen Persephone, formal introductions were still necessary. So Persephone will stay here periodically. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm Persephone, and I'm going to marry Lord Hades. Niece, we're already swamped with work, but a new goddess is always welcome. TSK. Such a young one bound to the underworld. I guess love really makes people blind. Emerich, who decided on that? Putting aside Persephone for now, let me inform you of the outcome of the Olympus meeting. I informed everyone of the conclusion that Chiron would be tasked with educating heroes by connecting the outer edges of the living world and underworld. To do that, I had brought the Omphalos stone as well. It fits with the prophecy, and it seems like a reasonable solution. We need to thoroughly manage the hero candidate's secrecy and impose many constraints. But who will handle this? Let's put a barrier around the canyon where the heroes will train, so they can't wander around the underworld. Monsters and Gigantes that have died will also come to the underworld, so there will be plenty of training partners for the heroes. Battling endlessly against immortal monsters would surely help produce powerful heroes. But can humans withstand the aura of the underworld? This is where the problem arose. Well-trained heroes might be able to, but how could aspiring heroes withstand the power of the underworld? The underworld is a place for those who have died and abandoned their mortal bodies. Even the outskirts of the underworld are filled with an aura of death that isn't suitable for the living. Even if the living stay for a while, isn't the underworld a place where one's flesh and bones grow gaunt? Maybe for a half-god or a completed hero, but for a pure human, the underworld, if we use our power, it will only grow stronger. We need a god of the living realm. Uncle Hades, I think I can solve this problem. Just when they were considering a way to separate part of the underworld, Persephone spoke. With the power of the goddess who governs spring and seeds? Are you sure you can do it? The underworld is under my domain, so it will consume a lot of energy. If it's just a small canyon, I'll be fine. Are you sure, Persephone? Even if you are the daughter of Zeus and Demeter, you're not among the 12 Olympians, are you? It would be too much for a young goddess like you. Neutralizing another god's domain, and that of Hades, at that. I can do it. I can't just play around here in the underworld. If she, who ate the food of the underworld and has to stay here periodically, takes on the task, it would be perfect. But she would have to continually emit her power in the canyon, which would be very exhausting. Even if they tried to find another god from Olympus, there's no god who would willingly stay long in the underworld. If they were one of the 12, they have their duties to fulfill, which makes it even more unlikely. For now, come with me to the outskirts. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. We came to the outskirts of the underworld, where Persephone and the heroes would train. Waiting for me at the enormous canyon that stretched across the outskirts of the underworld was Chiron. Lord Hades, I've heard the story. Indeed. As you know, I hope you will help nurture the heroes here. I never imagined I would train students in the underworld. Is it impossible? Then, there are even better aspects, actually. If we use the monsters that have died and come here, they'll make great teaching materials. The monsters that died and came to the underworld received the blessing of oblivion and became as tame as lambs. Some became divine beasts similar to Cerberus, guarding various parts of the underworld. Python, whom Apollo killed, is also living here peacefully. You mean the giant serpent who was originally the owner of Delphi? The great serpent Python, one of the monsters born from Gaia, the earth goddess, and Poseidon. It was the original owner of Delphi. Since it had prophetic abilities, it foresaw that Apollo would grow up to kill it and take its place, and it tried to kill the young Apollo, but failed. Later, when Apollo grew into a god, he shot thousands of arrows and killed Python. Python's wife, Pythia, surrendered easily, so Apollo did not kill her, but made her the oracle of the Temple of Delphi. Of course, the reason Apollo could kill Python, the child of Gaia and Poseidon, was Poseidon. Gaia is now our enemy, including the monsters that are her children. Destined to die, though. The god of prophecy must be on our side. It was possible because of the tacit agreement among the gods who oppose Gaia. There's Python, and also the giants that died, and the Sphinx that Oedipus defeated, and the sea monster killed by Perseus. I'm worried the heroes will find it too hard. Uncle Hades, shall we start now? It was time to neutralize the power of the underworld. After telling Persephone to begin, I stepped back with Chiron. Rumble. First, I used my power to separate the canyon as much as possible. Then I scattered the energy to reduce Persephone's burden as much as possible. When I nodded at her, a bright light erupted from the body of the goddess of spring and seeds. Whoosh! Hiss! At the same time, I felt a gentle and warm power wrapping around the canyon, and also saw the sweat dripping from Persephone's neck and the ichor flowing from her nose. Ugh! Ugh! The place to nurture the heroes was completely covered by the divine power of spring. There was a sense of awkwardness, like something blocking the energy of the canyon that I had previously felt as my domain, which made it certain. However, Persephone, having spent all her strength, collapsed on the spot. Thud! I quickly approached her and supported her back. As I wiped the sweat off Persephone's forehead, She looked at me and smiled faintly. Are you okay? It seems like you overexerted yourself. Huh, I'm a little tired, but it's okay. If I rest, I'll recover soon. Swoosh. The goddess of spring, who had overexerted herself, fell asleep in my arms. Even in her completely defenseless state, she showed a warm and lively atmosphere. I looked at her for a moment. Lord Hades, the fact that Persephone was struck by the golden arrow was fortunate for us gods. Chiron, knowing the reason why Persephone remained in the underworld, approached quietly. The reason she exhausted herself to the point of falling asleep was likely because she had fallen for me. She had sworn by the river Styx, so it wasn't because of the golden arrow that she had fallen for me. If not for the golden arrow, I wouldn't have thought of bringing her to the underworld. I would have thought it was just a fleeting emotion from a young goddess and ignored it. If the goddess of spring didn't stay in the underworld periodically, nurturing the heroes would have been difficult, though I tried to avoid facing it. Not all those who came to the underworld were victims of the gods' love affairs or jealousies. There were also those who loved each other so deeply that they committed suicide together, or who happily accepted death just to stay with each other for even a single moment. Love, what is it truly? It's quite difficult. Even Lady Aphrodite would have a hard time defining that emotion precisely. I gently cradled the sleeping Persephone in my arms, holding her back and the backs of her knees, making sure not to wake her. Step, step. As I held Persephone and returned to the fortress, I felt her stirring in my arms. Has she recovered enough to regain consciousness? Ugh, where is this? Huh, you're awake. I'll move you soon, so just wait. Overlapping another god's domain with my own power is not easy. This is why Gaia found it difficult to meddle with Thebes, overflowing with my followers. Even as one of the three great gods, covering Athens or Delphi with my power is no easy task. It's not impossible, but it's quite draining. And now, a lesser god, not even on the level of the 12 Olympians, dares to touch my underworld. No matter how much of the underworld they might have tried to alter, it's no easy feat. The only reason it was possible at all is because Persephone is of Zeus and Demeter's lineage. If my niece hadn't been in the underworld, the Olympian gods themselves would have had to neutralize the underworld's aura. Uncle Hades, for you to hold me so tenderly, are you finally agreeing to marry me? Just be quiet and focus on recovering before I put you down. The goddess in my arms made a weak smile and joked, but her face was pale. Right now, she's likely struggling to even move a finger. When I confirmed the power and aura she neutralized from the underworld, this isn't something that ends after a single attempt. To maintain it, you'll need to replenish its power every 6 months. Then I get to be held by you every 6 months, Uncle Hades. You've done something helpful, so I can manage that. The spring energy Persephone infused will not continue indefinitely. After some time, it will be eroded by the aura of the underworld and eventually return to its original state. What are you giggling about? For the time being, you'll find it difficult to use your divine powers. I'm just happy right now. Seeing Persephone smile bashfully while looking up at me made the corners of my mouth rise without me realizing. The niece in my arms looked up at me with a slightly surprised expression. Didn't you just smile? You must have imagined it. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I put Persephone down in a suitable room and returned to the throne, closing my eyes. I needed to start preparing to deliver an oracle to the living world and cultivate a hero. A few days later, Zeus will deliver an oracle to the king of Thebes, and he took Morpheus along, so I should also inform the priests at my temple in advance. I need to bring various training tools and supplies to the canyon. Since the food for the heroes has to come from the living world, not the underworld, there's that too. The priests in the living world will have a hard time for a while. Are you the high priest now? I have a message for you. This is, O Lord of the underworld, give your command. The current high priest was an old man. Seeing the faces and ranks of mortals change reminds me of the passage of time. But I will connect the underworld and the living world, starting from my temple. Why, yes. This isn't the time to get lost in such thoughts. The high priest was bewildered by my sudden statement, but I ignored it and continued explaining. About the serpent monster, Gigantes, about the training and management of heroes, the oath to be made by the river Styx. That is all. Discuss the detailed matters with the king of Thebes after he receives Zeus's oracle in a few days. I shall obey your command. Merciful Pluto! On, erect a statue of Persephone, the goddess of spring and seeds, daughter of Demeter and Zeus. The goddess of spring? Are you saying she resides in the underworld? It happened that way. She now belongs to the underworld. I delivered appropriately limited information to him in Thebes before cutting off communication. Even though he was the high priest of my temple, there was no need to reveal all the details of the god's affairs. It seems this high priest is very devout. Delivering my will or connecting with the living world is incredibly smooth. For some reason, the faith of the followers seems to increase with the passage of time. Lord Hades, Goddess Demeter has sent a letter for Goddess Persephone. No need to bring it to me. Deliver it directly to Persephone. Just sitting on the throne, it seems there are endless things to handle. Next, those who arrived in the underworld with strong resentment are speaking disrespectfully about the gods. Inform Lethe, the goddess of oblivion, of this matter. God Eros, who is tasked with punishing the grave sinners of the underworld, has submitted a petition that he no longer wishes to draw his bow. Did he beg to be released? He did not say that. He still hasn't come to his senses. For now, ignore Eros's requests, and Triton, the son of Lord Poseidon, ruler of the sea, has arrived to convey his regards. Guide him to the audience chamber and bring out nectar. As I dealt with each task the messenger brought, I thought, this finally feels like the usual underworld. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The Olympian gods' oracle descended upon the living world. It came to Apollo's temple at Delphi, to Athena's temple at Argos. The content conveyed by the Olympian gods with one voice was just one thing. Those who wish to become heroes should head to Thebes. It was a short oracle, just one sentence, but it greatly stirred the hearts of young people dreaming of becoming heroes. Becoming a hero had seemed difficult since the well-known teacher of heroes, Chiron, met his death. But perhaps because of the recent rampage by the giant snake-bodied monsters that swept across all of Greece, there was no shortage of people wanting to become heroes. Does that mean we can train there and become heroes? Apollo said the names of those snake monsters that killed Chiron were Gigantes. They say Athena descended in Athens and killed the Gigantes, right? A monster that only heroes can face. Fine, that's the kind of challenge I'm looking for. With all the gods giving the same oracle, the conclusion was clear. If you go to Thebes, you can gain the gods' favor. Those chosen there will receive blessings and arms and become heroes. I want to be like King Perseus of Argos. Every day, dozens of hero hopefuls gathered in Thebes. People of all genders, ages, and skills flocked to the city, bringing an unexpected boom to Thebes. Your Majesty, even today, the number of those passing through the city gates. The city's population is rapidly increasing. There are too many people gathering in the commercial district. We may need to expand it a bit. Though it seemed the sharp increase in population would lead to shortages of necessities and facilities. This city was blessed by Pluto, the god of wealth. The royal treasury of Thebes was always full, and there were no hungry people. The mint, a specialty and famous product of the city, was being spread worldwide by merchants passing through. Hey, this is mint, right? You say it's a blessing from Pluto? It's perfect for tea leaves, and it can prevent decay when placed at a funeral for the dead. The leaves are also useful for headaches or nasal congestion. It can only be described as a mercy granted by Pluto to mortals. Naturally, followers gathered at the temple of Pluto in Thebes. The worshippers were amazed by the grandeur of the temple, astonished again at the statues of all the gods associated with the underworld. And lastly, wait, why is there a statue of the goddess of spring in Pluto's temples? Oh, that? Well, isn't Lady Persephone the daughter of Demeter, goddess of the earth, and Zeus? You see, Pluto ended up getting struck by an arrow from Eros and brought her to the underworld. What? An arrow from Eros? How else could the solemn ruler of the underworld suddenly fall for the goddess of spring? The misunderstanding that Pluto had kidnapped Persephone was also spreading. Questions about the queen of the underworld, who had not existed since the first creation of the underworld temple, began to grow. Indeed, for the merciful god to bring the goddess of spring to the underworld, it could only have been an arrow from Eros. Pluto is the lord of the underworld, so no matter how hard Demeter tried, it was probably no use. Isn't it Eros' golden arrow that can even make love bloom between the same gender? There also emerged followers who worshipped the goddess who came to the underworld not originally part of it. They believed the theory that Pluto had brought Persephone to the underworld because he loved her deeply. O Hera of the underworld, favored by Pluto, please let this year's harvest be plentiful. Well, since the 4 seasons are normal, doesn't that mean she occasionally comes up to the living world? She must indeed be loved by Pluto. However, those who thought of Persephone as the queen of the underworld soon faced strong opposition. Many worshippers questioned what all the other goddess statues that had always been in the temple represented. No, goddess Persephone is just a whim of Pluto. Look at the goddess statues here. Like Lady Lethe, the goddess of forgetfulness, or Lady Styx, who governs the river Styx. Then what would you say about Lady Minda, who made mint, became Pluto's priestess, and ultimately became a goddess of the underworld? Just as Lady Hera is the wife of Lord Zeus, and Lady Amphitrite is the consort of Lord Poseidon, the queen of the underworld should be. Isn't it possible there's no such thing as a proper wife? Maybe it's just our own assumption. Nonsense. How could a ruler of an entire realm not have someone by their side? Well, that's true, but Lord Pluto is so busy with both divine and worldly matters. This was a classic example of the ancient Greeks' tendency to enjoy debating the most trivial of matters. Eventually, the wide open space in front of Hades' temple turned into a place where followers of the underworld gathered daily to debate who Pluto's true wife was. A few months after the oracle about Thebes spread widely across the mortal realm, a sturdy man entered Thebes. This man was Pilatos, who was famous for his great strength in Sparta. So this is Thebes. It's a much larger city than I thought. As soon as he crossed the city walls, he heard merchants calling out to customers and children laughing from all directions. The people walking by had glossy, healthy-looking faces, and a pleasant, subtle scent emanated from those passing by him. A little away from the main road, there were rows of simple houses made of well-baked bricks, packed closely together. He could also spot the homes of wealthy noble families with gardens, as well as the largest royal palace in Thebes. High-quality olives blessed by the goddess Demeter for sale. How much is this? We even have fish left over from offerings to the gods of Olympus, just for a single piece. It's clear that Phoebus has blessed you, haha. As expected from Pluto's city, there's a strong scent of mint. Thunk. Someone bumped into Pilatos, who was idly staring at his surroundings in the middle of the road. The main road was wide, but it seemed to have become a bit of an obstacle due to the number of people around. Hey, what are you doing blocking the road? You look like an outsider who came to Thebes wanted to be a hero. Try going to the Agora. Sorry. Jeez. TSK. There are way too many clueless outsiders these days. The merchant, wearing a chiton made of animal fur and cowhide sandals, grumbled as he passed by. Seeing the line of servants following him, it was obvious that he had made quite a fortune through trade. As Pilatos continued to wander around, a group of children ran past him, heading somewhere. Kaiha, so yesterday's thunder was because of Lord Zeus. Today, let's sneak up the mountain again. Let's pick lots of wild berries. If you guys do that again, you'll get scolded. Besides, the guard will probably stop you. Go to the Hypnos statue in Pluto's temple and pray. If you're scared of falling asleep lately, why would there be a statue of Hypnos, the god of sleep, in Pluto's temples? Curious about what the children had said as they ran by, he decided to visit Pluto's temple. The temple, located on the outskirts of the city, was grand enough to resemble a royal palace, and it was packed with people. As if to prove that the other aspect of the god of wealth and mercy was the underworld. All of Pluto's priests and servants were dressed in dark, gloomy attire. HNGH. It's especially crowded today. I brought a few eggs laid by our chicken as offerings. Do you think the god will be displeased with just that? You don't know anything, do you? Lord Pluto is the god of wealth and mercy, indifferent to offerings. Yeah, it's the heart that matters. After managing to get inside, Pilatos saw Pluto's priests and servants managing the crowd. People carrying offerings like honey, grains, and animal hides were lined up in large numbers. After waiting in line for a while, a beautiful priestess in a black robe approached him. She looked to be in her early 30s, and she clasped her hands toward Pilatos before speaking. May Pluto's grace be with you. I am Philona, a lower priestess. What brings you here? I just stopped by out of curiosity. I heard there are statues of other gods here. Oh, if you'd like to see the statues of other gods of the underworld, please proceed over there. The priestess stretched out her finger, pointing in one direction. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Following the direction pointed out by the priestess, Pilatos walked around the temple until he came across a line of statues and a long queue in front of them. In front of each marble statue stood heavily armed guards. Judging by their attire, they were clearly royal guards. Next person. Hey, you already prayed once. It's one person per prayer. This measure is because of the increasing crowd. O ruler of the river of forgetfulness, my son hasn't been able to sleep since returning from war. I swear in front of the stick statue that, today, I also intend to show my integrity before Lord Pluto, who is fair and just. Ahem, to the goddess of mint. The worshippers murmured softly in front of the statues of the gods they revered, eyes closed and hands clasped. Puzzled by the scene, Pilatos asked one of the guards a question. Excuse me, I'm an outsider, so I don't know much, but why are there statues of other gods in Pluto's temple? Ah, that question again. The guard sighed heavily, as if many others had asked the same question. He then began to explain, clearly exasperated. I'll only explain it once, so listen carefully. Got it? Lord Pluto, being a merciful god, ordered that statues of most of the gods residing in the underworld be placed within his temple. As you can see, there are statues of the goddesses of vengeance, Tanit, Ahem, and even the god of death, aren't there? Yes, but, come to think of it, statues of gods that people usually shunned were also placed there. At least in Sparta, they didn't even mention the names of the god of death, Thanatos, or the three goddesses of vengeance. They are gods who, despite being shunned by mortals, accepted the faith of those who avoided them or didn't even know their names. Thanks to that, we were able to let go of more prejudices than expected. I see. After waiting for a while in a suitable line, Pilatos clasped his hands together and prayed before the statue of an unknown goddess. As for his prayer, it was something about being thankful for grace. Flash. What is this? Another one has been chosen. He looks like an outsider. Quite enviable. Is it the statue of the goddess Styx? A faint light suddenly radiated and enveloped his body. However, not many people were surprised at the divine sign, and the guard who had spoken to him earlier approached him. Congratulations. If you came to Thebes to become a hero, would you follow me? What was that just now? The goddess Styx recognized the latent power within you. Occasionally, people are chosen here. It's true that I came here to become a hero. You've passed the first trial, so come this way. With a slightly reluctant face, Pilatos followed the guard somewhere inside the temple. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Pilatos was guided into a large room resembling a banquet hall, where he was told by the guard to sit and wait. There were many kinds of food around, and about 10 others were passing the time like him. Feel free to do whatever you want. Just wait until the evening. So, are all the others here chosen by the statues as well? Of course not. If you go to the agora at the city center and wait, you can be trained by an instructor. There are various trials you have to pass. Anyway, most people who make a name for themselves there end up coming here. Those wanting to become heroes were gathered at the agora in the city center. They were selected by having them carry stones, demonstrate swordsmanship, or show any unusual skills. Sometimes, those chosen by the gods or marked by an oracle were also selected. Many who do not become heroes end up joining the military. Recently, one person was even chosen as a royal guard. It's no wonder the Theban royal family follows the words of the gods. It's all because it benefits them. The distinguished individuals were gathered in the room where Pilatos was. After Pilatos nodded in understanding, the guard returned to his original position. After waiting until evening, a man in a black robe, who seemed to be a priest of Pluto, entered the room. The middle-aged man was followed by soldiers and other priests. So this is everyone for today? Come out one by one and touch this. Thud. The middle-aged priest placed a small, glowing stone on the table. One by one, the people approached the mystical-looking object and began touching it. Flash. It glows. Stand over here. No reaction at all. Unfortunately, you are disqualified. What? Disqualified by just this little stone. It seemed that those whose touch made the stone glow could become heroes. Though the disqualified man fumed, Pilatos could feel it. That stone seemed to carry a divinity, as if the gods themselves had imbued it with power. What's so special about this stupid stone? I didn't come all the way to Thebes for some trickery. It seems we have no other choice. Thunk. This is what happens to those who cause trouble. Remember that. The disqualified man, who had grabbed a soldier by the collar in defiance, was soon struck down by a guard's spear handle. The reason for bringing so many soldiers and a priest into the room was now clear. The middle-aged priest continued his assessment without even glancing at the unconscious man being dragged away by two soldiers. Next, come forward. Is it my turn? The next person in line was a scholar who looked as if he couldn't even catch a chicken. However, he passed. Flash. That makes two. Stand over here. Did that mean even a frail-looking person like him could be chosen as a hero by the gods? Next. Now only a muscular, bald man and Pilatos were left. The muscular man brushed past him and placed his hand on the stone, which soon reacted. Flash. But something was off. Instead of the white light the stone had emitted until now, it radiated a bright red glow. The bald man tilted his head, puzzled as to why this was happening to him, then suddenly drew a sword from his belt. Drool dripped from his mouth, and his eyes gradually turned red. Ugh! Ugh! He's a spy consumed by madness. Kill him. At the unknown words that came from the middle-aged priest, the soldier, he's a spy consumed by madness. Kill him. Art. Huh. Clang. Clink. This place had suddenly turned into a battlefield with spears and swords flying everywhere. A man, his eyes reddened, charged at the soldiers and used his full strength to cut one of them down. Slash dash. Red blood splattered across the once peaceful room, and the furniture around was shattered. Pilatos couldn't fully grasp the situation. The only thing he was sure of was that the man was acting abnormally, and the soldier seemed used to situations like this. Art. Ugh. His strength. Priest. That guy. Pilatos moved quickly to help the soldiers. He slipped behind the madman, drew his sword from his waist, and lifted it high. Following the practiced moves of his usual sword training, he fiercely swung at the crazed man's shoulder. The well-honed, sharp blade gleamed coldly as it flashed through the air. Oomph! Slash dash! With a single swing backed by his strength, renowned even in Sparta, the crazed man's muscular arm was severed, causing blood to spurt out. Yet, the man, lost in madness, was undeterred and instead lunged at him. Pilatos tried to pull back his sword and swing again, but the madman was already too close. He was astonished by the unnatural strength of the crazed man. Ugh! He barely managed to block the attack with his sword, but that was all. How could a one-armed man exert such force? Would he meet Thanatos like this? He gritted his teeth. Huh! Ah! Thud! Suddenly, the madman stopped moving and collapsed limply. A little distance away, a priest, who had extended his hand, opened his mouth. No one can withstand the power of Hypnos forever. The priest of Hypnos, the god of sleep. The madman was taken away by the soldiers, but Pilatos was still being watched with suspicion. TSK. After being quiet for a while, well, I suppose it was time. The middle-aged priest handed him a mystical stone. Are you the last one? Place your hand on the stone. If you're fine, nothing will happen. All right. I am of sound mind. After all, flash dash. The white light, just like the others who had passed. Not the red glow that marked madness. Pilatos sighed in relief, and the soldiers lowered their guard. From now on, I will guide them. You men can go about your business. Yes, priest. Then, we'll take our leave. Only 3 had passed this strange test. The middle-aged priest led the 3, sending the soldiers away, and they followed him. What was the meaning of this strange test? And who was that madman? Why did the gods impose such trials on those who sought to become heroes? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. They arrived in a room deep within the temple. The 3 who had gone through strict security to get here did not look well. Now, everyone, take a look at this parchment. What is this now? It's the 3rd trial. Read through the parchment and swear by the river Styx to abide by everything written there. What? The river Styx? Is this really necessary? An oath by the river Styx was an unbreakable rule, but the restrictions written on the parchment were too numerous. Forbidden to disclose anything you see or hear from now on, either directly or indirectly through writing or illustration. Once signed, you must follow instructions until you take your first steps as a hero. And also, I can't do this. How can anyone agree to this? One of the 3 who had passed the trial waved his hands and expressed his refusal. Another, upon reading the numerous prohibitions, also turned pale. So, 2 have refused. Then just swear not to reveal anything about the trials in Thebes, and you may leave. Understood. I swear by the river Styx not to disclose anything I've seen or heard during this trial to anyone. I also. The 2 left the way they had come, but Pilatos did not give up. He couldn't abandon his dream of becoming a hero after coming all the way from Sparta. I swear by the river Styx to uphold the contents written on this parchment. Oh, so we have one hero after all. Though not yet. Of course, since I've made the oath. Can you now explain what all this has been about? The middle-aged priest nodded at his question. I can't tell you everything, but that stone you saw earlier holds the power of the god Dionysus, the power of the god of madness. Of course, it doesn't drive a sane person mad. It's meant to make those already consumed by madness unable to endure it. That's why you referred to him as a spy. What? From some other god, or... You must be aware of the serpent monsters that have appeared all across Greece. Think of them as spies sent by that side. He knew about the serpent monsters, the Gigantes. There was no way he could be unaware of those powerful beasts that destroyed temples and killed heroes or demigods throughout Greece. But monsters driving humans mad and using them as spies? It seemed clear that they were caught up in a complex conflict among the gods. Damn it. I shouldn't get involved in the affairs of the gods, but there's no choice, since it's come to this. You've made up your mind, I see. After nearly a month, finally someone has come. The middle-aged priest opened the door on the inner side of the room. Stone stairs leading downward appeared before them, and torches were hanging at regular intervals along both walls. Follow me this way. It looks like some sort of ceremonial place. You'll find out if you follow me. Step, step. And so, what Pilatos saw when they reached somewhere underground. Rumble. There was a space, or rather a rift, where an unusual current was clearly swirling. The entire space seemed to have shattered, leading somewhere else, and the rift emitted a black light, large enough for several people to pass through. What? What is this? I've never seen anything like this before in my life. Is this the power of an Olympian god? It's a gateway to the underworld. If you enter it, you'll receive training to become a hero. The underworld? The underworld, also known as the netherworld. That place, under Pluto's domain, was only accessible to the dead, wasn't it? To train heroes in such a place. What was the reason for creating this under Pluto's temple? The hesitant Pilatos heard the priest's advice. You've sworn an oath on the river Styx with a vow of silence, so I will not force you. If you're destined to be a hero, you'll cross through this gateway. If not, you'll give up. Despite the challenge to his pride, Pilatos couldn't easily bring himself to move forward. How could the living cross over to the underworld? But if I eat the food of the underworld, I won't be able to return to the living world, will I? Of course, the food you'll eat is regularly brought here from the living world. There must be plenty of food brought from the living world over there. Must he really train in the underworld to walk the path of a hero? Wouldn't it be possible to find another way? Did everyone else go through this process too? Of course. Some gave up, and some are training inside. Pluto himself raising heroes in his domain. What in the world? Seeing Pilatos aghast, the priest, still calm, spoke again. It means that the gods are showing interest. The choice is yours. To the underworld. There was no possibility that the priest had lied to him. The followers of Pluto feared judgment in the underworld above all. Pluto's followers believed in paying for their sins in the underworld in a fair manner, so they almost never committed crimes. After much contemplation, Pilatos slowly stepped forward. One step toward becoming a hero. I'll go to the underworld. I will definitely become a hero and defeat that Gigantes. Oh ho! I wish you good fortune. As the strange crack in space gradually grew closer, he clenched his teeth and took a step forward. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Swoosh! Pilatos, having passed through the rift, could not help but be astonished by the scenery of the underworld. This is the underworld? It felt different from what he had imagined. He had stepped forward, ready for a dark and grim realm of death. But what spread before him was a canyon made of stone, a vast plain, and there was even some light shining. The ground was covered in green grass, almost like a meadow, and there were even trees. It didn't feel like the underworld at all, and, as if entranced, he spoke. Did I die and arrive at Elysium? Of course not. Huh? The real Elysium can't even be compared to this place. Startled by a sudden voice from beside him, Pilatos turned his head to see a translucent centaur. The deceased soul, no doubt, was looking down at Pilatos with a hearty laugh. Oh, why you are? I am Chiron. From now on, I will be your teacher as a centaur. The wise Chiron? Chiron's reputation remained even after his death. Only now did Pilatos understand why heroes were trained in the underworld. But is this really the underworld? Why does it look so similar to the living world? Well, several gods, including the goddess of spring, have used their power so that the living can adapt to the underworld. Just don't cross the barrier you see over there. Goddess Persephone. I see. Indeed, beyond the visible boundary, the landscape was entirely dark, filled with the scenery of the underworld. He instinctively sensed that crossing that boundary would lead to his death. The space allowed for aspiring heroes from the living world was only around this canyon. But even this amount of space was enough. Chiron, the wise teacher, was going to teach him personally. Coming to Thebes was the right choice. But that thought was soon shattered. Whoosh bang! Gah! A figure covered in blood crashed into a rock after being sent flying from afar. The one who had just been thrown seemed to be an aspiring hero like himself. Pilatos hastily turned his head, and what came into his view was, Arx, I heard it's weakened because it's dead, but why is it still so strong? Use your head. Do you think we're Apollo? Ugh, just die already. Screech, use your strength. Aren't you a demigod? I've been giving it my all since earlier. Gah, damn it. Protus is down. Crash boom. A colossal, translucent serpent monster was striking down the aspiring heroes rushing at it, swinging its tail nonchalantly. With just a flick of its tail, people went flying, shields were shattered, it was utter chaos. Clang! Ting! Damn it! Shoot it in the eyes with arrows. Just die already, damn it! Nevertheless, the heroes gritted their teeth and charged. But their attacks didn't seem to have any effect on the monster. Ah, that's the python, the royal serpent. Lord Hades lent it to train the heroes. Wait, is that the same python that Lord Apollo personally killed? Is there another python besides that one? When he heard he had to face a monster that even a god had to step in to kill, he was dumbfounded. But Chiron simply responded with another question. Do we have to face such a monster? Didn't you come to the underworld because you wanted to become a hero? But it was true he had stepped into the underworld filled with courage. By the way, thanks to Pluto's grace, you don't die easily in the underworld, so don't worry. I can't even die. He wanted to return to the living world. After Persephone and Eros came to the underworld, the working conditions of the gods who originally worked there improved significantly. Of course, this included Eros, who had the role of endlessly pulling his bow to torture severe sinners. And surprisingly, Persephone eagerly helped with the tasks in the underworld. The goddess of spring, who was doing work for the first time in her life, was clumsy but diligent in helping the other gods. Since it seemed insufficient to believe it was just because she had fallen for me, I decided to ask her directly. As I approached the place where the gods handling paperwork worked, the sounds of agony reached my ears. It was common to see gods carrying piles of parchment, and some hurriedly passed by without noticing me. Everyone seems to be having a hard time. Ugh, when will this ever end? Oh, Lord Hades, you've arrived. Nectar. I just want a glass of nectar. Amidst them stood out a goddess with long, golden hair. She was flipping through the pile of parchment stacked like mountains at a long table, her quill pen moving steadily. My niece. She looked so decadent that it was hard to believe she was the lively goddess of spring. Persephone. Oh, Uncle Hades. Just a moment. Let me finish processing the documents from the residential areas for the souls first. All right. Honestly, I was a bit surprised. Though her golden eyes were brimming with longing, she turned her gaze back to the documents nonetheless. Why on earth is she acting this way? Dong, dong, dong. Ugh, my neck is stiff. Let me rest my eyes for a bit. Wake me when the bell rings again. After some time, the mountain-like pile of parchments diminished, and a short break began. Even in the underworld, we didn't work without any breaks. Although we were immortal gods who didn't need food, due to memories from my previous lives, where I took breaks during lunch and dinner, a bell was rung periodically to allow leisure time in the underworld. Of course, for Charon, Thanatos, and those with severe sins, it was a bit different. Oh, Lord Hades, when did you get here? Are you here to see Lady Persephone? The gods, who now recognized me, tried to show respect, but I waved it off and looked at Persephone. The gods tactfully stepped back, and I spoke to the goddess. Has anyone forced you to work here in the underworld? No, not at all. Then why? Why are you doing all this? You're the daughter of Zeus and Demeter. I would have made exceptions for you. PFF. But isn't an inexperienced goddess not your type? Uncle Hades? I'm just putting in the effort. What's that supposed to mean? Since when was my type a workaholic? Persephone stood up straight and seemed to emphasize something. Even Lady Styx and that lower goddess, Mont, said so. They said that if you can't even do this much, Uncle Hades wouldn't even glance at you. All the goddesses after you. Why are such rumors spreading? It's not like I can go around correcting every goddess. Besides, you have to periodically infuse power into the outskirts of the underworld, so resting would be. That's different. That's a reward, and this is competition. It's just a small matter. You don't need to know, Uncle. Dong, dong, dong. Oh, it's time to get back to work. See you at dinner later. Feeling an uneasy sense about it, I decided not to ask further. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Then leave this to Lady Mnemosyne. Are there any more decisions I need to make? What you just mentioned is the last one, Lord Hades. Good. Morpheus, you can also go rest now. We'll have a hard day again, starting tomorrow. Creak. As I was about to rest after finishing my work for the day, the door of the audience hall opened slightly, and a goddess entered. It was my niece, Persephone, who I had visited earlier. Lady Styx is not here, nor is Lady Lethe. Persephone, she came in holding dates and figs, snacks that mortals of the mortal realm would eat. Persephone let out a silly laugh and plopped down on the floor next to the throne. Uncle, if you have nothing to do, would you like to chat with me? But isn't it about time for you to return to the mortal realm? It was now the time agreed upon with Demeter. In fact, it seemed like it was already overdue. But I like the underworld. I don't want to. I want to stay a bit longer. My niece puffed her cheeks and pouted cutely. Still, she should return before it gets too late. Her mother must be worried, since the work in the underworld has become much easier thanks to her over the past few months. Well, she will probably return once we chat a little. If it's only for a short time, then uncle, will you hear my story first? When I was in the mortal realm, a story about playing games with the nymphs near Mount Etna, a story shared while speculating about the gods, and about her mother, my sister Demeter. I got to learn a bit more about Persephone. To think she would have such modest hobbies like weaving and watching plays. I've been talking too much about myself. Uncle, tell me about you too. Like what kind of goddess's appearance you find attractive, or what traits are charming to you. I turned away from her eager gaze. What in the world is she saying now? There's no such thing. Tisk. Then tell me an old story instead. You've lived so long, so you must know lots of stories. What good does living long do? But as you said, I do know quite a few stories. From my father Kronos, who had existed since the beginning. You? Yes. Have you ever climbed to the summit of Mount Olympus? Just once. Mother didn't take me to Olympus very often. I still haven't forgotten that sight. I closed my eyes briefly to recall the past. Persephone remained silent, waiting for me. A long time ago, when I was born and climbed to the summit of Mount Olympus for the first time, it was the first time I felt a desire to live in this world for a long time. The reason why we fought so fiercely in the war against the Titans. The reason why we all sought dominion over the world was because of that ambition. The reason everyone desired the sky, now ruled by Zeus, was because of that very ambition. Yes, that sense of omnipotence when overlooking everything from the highest sky. Recalling those times, I began telling Persephone about the past. Wow! Even Uncle Hades, whom everyone says is so transcendent, had a phase like that. I did then, but as I governed the underworld, I grew to like it here more and more. As I reminisced and spoke with Persephone, time passed. Isn't it time for you to really leave now, niece? As I thought that, the door of the audience hall opened, and a messenger rushed in. Lord Hades, Lady Demeter, the goddess of the earth, has come to take Lady Persephone back. Demeter herself has come? Even if her daughter was a little late in returning to the mortal realm, it wasn't something that would prompt the goddess of the earth to come in person. I guess she has something she wants to say to me directly. Guide her to the audience hall. Upon hearing this, Persephone quietly stood up. I see. You're planning to slip away quietly before your mother arrives. Well then, Uncle Hades, since you seem busy with work, I'll be off. If you don't want to run into Demeter and hear her nagging, return to the mortal realm on time next time. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Not long after she headed to the mortal realm, my guest arrived. With her seemingly cold and expressionless look, splendid appearance, and beautiful hair of light brown and golden hues, Demeter, the goddess of the earth, had come to the underworld. Hades, my daughter. She ran off just now because she didn't want to hear your nagging. She's probably in the mortal realm by now. I see. As if she expected this, Demeter's expression didn't change. It was clear she had something to say, seeing as she remained silent even after hearing that her daughter wasn't here. Using her divine power to block out the surrounding sound, the goddess of the earth quietly began to speak. Demeter, who had been meeting my gaze until now, turned her head slightly. Do you know why I am so overprotective of Kore? Her sunken voice carried a hint of sorrow, so I chose not to respond. As if she hadn't expected an answer, she continued, My daughter Kore is too beautiful. Anyone who meets her face even once praises her beauty. Just like Hephaestus said before, Persephone indeed had an exceptionally beautiful appearance. In terms of beauty, only Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, clearly surpassed her. Except for a goddess associated with beauty, hardly anyone could match Persephone's looks. In an even lower voice, Demeter spoke quietly. In Greece, being beautiful is, yes, it's a curse, not a blessing. I know that well. In Greece, where there are scoundrels who resort to rape, adultery, dirty tricks, and deceit to establish relationships, beauty is not a blessing but a curse. Aphrodite, too, had to enter an unwanted marriage because of her beauty. Persephone might find her mother's overprotection suffocating. But without such a Demeter, it wouldn't have been surprising if she had already faced trouble. There were countless suitors for my daughter, even though I am her mother and Zeus is her father. Persephone is beautiful. After all, as things stood, anything could have happened. I was always worried for her. Neither Zeus, the king of the gods, nor Demeter could stay by Persephone's side all the time, until rumors spread that the lord of the underworld had fallen for Kore at first sight and kidnapped her to the underworld. One of the reasons I've kept Persephone in the underworld came from Demeter's mouth. Among the mortals, rumors spread that I fell for my niece after being struck by Eros's arrow and kidnapped her. On purpose, I didn't correct the misunderstanding. The more it was believed that I loved her. Hades, thanks to you, those who approached Kore have vanished. No fool would dare touch someone claimed by the lord of the underworld. Demeter turned her head to look back at me, her eyes showing a trace of gratitude. I know that you are different from the other gods, who are mad with desire. The fact that Kore still remains pure shows that. I don't know if you and she will eventually marry, but if that day comes, take good care of Kore. This was not the request of the goddess of the earth, but of a mother with a daughter. I glanced at Demeter, waiting for my answer, and opened my mouth. Don't worry, I shall return to the mortal realm now. Keep what happened today is with aspiring heroes starting their training in the underworld. The number of those becoming my followers gradually increased. Perhaps it was due to being constantly exposed to the energy of the underworld, even though Persephone's power had somewhat neutralized it. Oh, Pluto, if you're watching, please have mercy on me. Aya, boom. No, Aerotos. Are you all right? This guy. His eyes are completely rolled back. Hey, snap out of it. The one whose voice I just heard became a new follower. In fact, it wasn't strange for heroes, often tormented by mythical monsters, to call out to me. When facing monsters almost impossible to defeat with mortal strength, it's natural to turn to any nearby god. However, no matter how desperately they called for me, I never helped them. Maybe if they called from the world above, but here in the underworld, the trials are merely training. Oh, Pluto! Another has passed the test and gone to the underworld. Thank you for your grace. And the priests in the mortal realm, connected to the outskirts of the underworld, were doing their part well. Occasionally, there were agents sent by Gaia, tainted by madness, but the stone imbued with Dionysus' power filtered them out well. As I observed the heroes training from my throne with my eyes closed, a soft voice called out. It was the voice of Lady Styx, one I always recognized. Hades, are you free by any chance? Lady Styx? There's no one in the audience chamber at the moment. What's the matter? Gently opening the door of the audience chamber and looking around before entering was the goddess. Have you heard that a new hero is trying to slay the Chimera? Chimera. You mean the child of Typhon and Echidna? The beast Chimera or Chimera? One of the children of Typhon and Echidna. It was a monstrous creature with parts of 3 animals. It had the body of a lion, with a goat's head on its back, and a snake for a tail, making it a formidable beast. The lion's head breathed fire, the goat's head possessed cunning, and the snake's fangs dripped venom. Now that I think about it, Typhon's children were all quite powerful. Cerberus, who acted as the guardian and sentinel of the underworld, was also Typhon's child, as was the Nemean lion in the valley of Nemea. Even the Sphinx, once taken in by Hera and later killed by Oedipus, had come to the underworld. The child of Typhon being killed by a hero. Many gods must be watching. Olympus contacted us, suggesting we lend Pegasus, who was born from Medusa's severed head, to the hero, Pegasus, the white, winged horse born when the hero Perseus severed Medusa's head. Unlike ordinary horses, Pegasus could use its wings to soar through the skies. Last time, after Medusa became a minor deity of the underworld, she had gone to the mortal realm and brought Pegasus down to the underworld. To be precise, as she approached, Pegasus seemed to recognize its mother and quietly followed her back. Thus, Pegasus had been residing in the underworld, peacefully spending time with his mother. Then I should summon Medusa and ask her opinion. After all, Pegasus was born from her. Would you like me to bring her here? She's likely with Lady Mint right now. There's no need. I'll go see Pegasus myself. It's been a while anyway. Last I heard, they were in the Elysian fields to feed Pegasus. Since Pegasus had eaten the food of the underworld, it now belonged here. However, depending on Medusa's thoughts, lending it to the hero for a time might be possible. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I arrived at the Elysian fields, a place warmer than even the goddess of spring and more comfortable than even the goddess of the hearth. In the vast plains that seemed to stretch endlessly, a gentle breeze carried the sounds of insects. The Elysian fields looked almost no different from the fields of the mortal world. There, on a high hill, was a man lying down, basking in the atmosphere. As I approached, he rose with a happy expression. The great hero of Thebes, Cadmus, who had once tricked Typhon, now resided in the Elysian fields. Seeing me, Cadmus spoke. Well, if it isn't Lord Hades, what brings you to Elysium? It's been a while, Cadmus. Have you seen two goddesses and a winged horse around here? They passed by a while ago, over that way. He pointed in a direction with his finger. The goddesses must have taken Pegasus, and it was likely grazing in the fields by now. Once it had eaten its fill and finished, it would return here. While waiting for them, I thought I'd share a conversation with Cadmus. I decided to ask him about life in this place. It's a paradise I had carefully crafted, but any dwelling should be reviewed by its residents. How's life in Elysium? Are you satisfied? Huh? My wife Harmonia can't stop smiling. Compared to the mortal world these days, Cadmus spoke with a wide smile, showing his teeth. It seems his wife, the goddess of harmony, Harmonia, and he get along very well. Even in death, to live in harmony as a mortal. Even after all these years, you seem very close with Harmonia. I'm not Lady Aphrodite, but isn't that what love is? They've been dead for quite a long time, yet their love remained unchanged. I see. If this is truly love, perhaps I too. But what brings you to Elysium, Lord Hades? I came to meet Medusa, to lend Pegasus to a hero in the mortal realm. It seems the mortal world still knows no peace. By any chance, are those snake monsters I told you about involved? I shared with him the details about the Gigantes and also the fact that I was training heroes in the underworld. I also told him about the current state of his descendants and the people of Thebes. Oh, is that so? Then may I ask one favor? You have a request for me? Speak your mind. Aren't my fellow heroes training at the outskirts of the underworld? I would like to lend my strength to them as well. I cannot disturb one who is supposed to be resting in Elysium. I refused outright, but Cadmus, with a hearty laugh, spoke again. This place is a paradise, a peaceful space that everyone dreams of. Lord Hades, leading the next generation on the right path is both the duty and pride of a hero. At times, helping them can be more fulfilling than staying here in Elysium. But you've already completed the tasks and duties given to you, and all connections to the mortal realm have been severed. Ask the other heroes as well. If they are true heroes, they would give you a similar answer as I have. The first hero, who stole Zeus' tendons from Typhon to save Olympus, still had an unwavering gaze despite all the time that had passed. If that is what being a hero is, if that is truly their wish, I will suggest it to the others as well. Summon me anytime. I'd love to pass on whatever little experience I have to the next generation. As we conversed, a voice called out from afar. Cadmus, where are you? This voice. It seems Harmonia is looking for me. I must go and fetch Pegasus. Go and enjoy your time with your wife. Please come again next time. I'll prepare something for your visit. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Not long after I turned away, I encountered the goddesses and Pegasus. Seeing me, the beautiful white-winged Pegasus snorted and tried to hide behind Medusa. Snort. Oh, Lord Hades, have you come to see me? You came all the way to Elysium? Seeing Mint and Medusa greet me with bright smiles, I nodded. But still, Pegasus is afraid of me. Medusa, I've come to discuss lending Pegasus to a hero in the mortal world. Excuse me? You can just command me. I remained silent at her question. She too was once beheaded by a hero, and it was from that event that Pegasus was born. After a moment of silence, Medusa seemed to realize something and bowed her head. Ah, you don't need to be considerate of me. Please feel free to lend Pegasus as you wish, my lord. Thank you. Once the hero slays Typhon's offspring, I'll return him to you. Snort. Pegasus, an intelligent creature, seemed to understand what was being said. Medusa patted his back a few times to calm him down again. Does he still follow you around and bother you wherever you go? Fufu. That was back when he was a foal. He's grown now and doesn't do that anymore. Right? Snort. For some reason, he's only scared of Lord Hades. Maybe it's because he's a flying horse? Mint mused. She might be right, since Pegasus, with the attributes of the sky and the sea, now belonged to the underworld. Adapting couldn't have been easy. He seemed to be getting used to the underworld's energy by now, though he still seemed wary of me. When I gestured to Pegasus, the intelligent creature moved toward me, albeit hesitantly. Well, I'll be taking Pegasus with me now. All right. See you later. Understood, Lord Hades. Now, it was time to entrust this horse to a hero. Who should deliver it? After leaving Elysium with Pegasus and returning to the fortress, Lady Styx welcomed us. She had taken care of some urgent matters during my brief absence and was now resting. You're finally back, Hades? And you brought Pegasus? Nay, some might think it was overstepping boundaries, but it was I who granted Lady Styx authority as a token of gratitude for her aid during the war against the Titan gods. Thus, when I was absent from the underworld, she would often take on the role of the final decision-maker. However, if there were issues too complex to decide on her own, she would wait for my return to address them. Now all that's left is to deliver this to the hero. I'm thinking of having Hermes or Athena do it. Shall I send a message to Olympus? Yes, please do. As I finished speaking and was about to return to where I originally was, Lady Styx's figure caught my eye. Her long black hair, tired blue eyes, and the parchment in her hand. Thinking about it, she had truly done a lot for me. A long time ago, during the war with the Titans, she helped with the affairs of the underworld and supported me when I was inexperienced. The sensation of the Styx sword hanging from my waist somehow felt warm. Lady Styx, as well as Lady Lethe, Mont, and Persephone, they all liked me, even though I was lacking, yet I couldn't remember ever properly repaying them. In the goddess's beautiful eyes, there was trust, faith, and affection directed at me. As I silently gazed at her, lost in complicated thoughts, Lady Styx gave a faint laugh and spoke. Hades, why are you staring at me like that? Have you been enchanted by my beauty? Yes. You look particularly beautiful today. What? What did you say? The parchment slipped from Lady Styx's hand as her face flushed red, all the way to her ears. She raised one hand to cover her mouth, clearly flustered. And then I spoke, my voice slightly tense. This is just a walk. Yes, it's just a way to repay her. It doesn't mean much. Probably. Since Pegasus is heading to the mortal realm, would you like to join me in a ride across the sky? Gasp. I'll be right back after preparing. Wait here. Thud. Crack. The goddess, leaving her words hurriedly behind, dashed past me, catching her foot on the door of the audience chamber. Of course, the part of the door that caught the foot of a strong divine being shattered on the spot. Looking at the fragments of the door scattered across the chamber floor, a thought crossed my mind. Should I change my clothes too? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I expected her to return soon, but surprisingly, a considerable amount of time passed, and Lady Styx still had not returned. As I was about to go out and check if anything had happened, the door swung open, and Lady Styx rushed in with a sense of urgency. She bent over, resting her hands on her knees, panting as if she had just been chased by someone. Who could possibly cause Lady Styx to be so flustered in the underworld? Could it be an all-out battle with the Gigantes? Huff! Huff! Hurry, Hades! What happened? Has war broken out on Olympus? Or has Poseidon staged another rebellion? Well, huff! No, it's just... Lady Lethe was suspicious of me and kept following me around, so I had to circle the underworld. Huff. Perhaps a glass of water first. After calming herself, Lady Styx explained. Apparently, Lady Lethe had found her changing clothes in her room. Styx, where are you planning to go dressed like that? Lo, Lethe, it's nothing. That looks suspicious. From then on, Lethe followed her around for quite a while and only let her go after piling her with work. Lady Styx let out a small sigh as she finished her explanation. Ugh, Lethe can be so persistent. Considering what you're wearing, unlike the plain clothes she had been wearing earlier, she was now dressed in a chiton with significant exposure at the chest and legs. Her face glistened with a mixture of olive oil and honey, and golden jewelry adorned her slightly blushing ears. Hades, yes, if you keep staring at me like that. Her flushed cheeks only added to her beauty. Would you accompany me, goddess? Of course. And so, I took Lady Styx and stepped briefly into the mortal realm. Of course, Pegasus came along too. Nay, Pegasus seemed delighted to be in the mortal realm again and ran around for a while. I stopped the celestial horse, mounted it, and extended my hand to Lady Styx. Come up. Yes. I took hold of Pegasus's reins, and Lady Styx settled in behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist and resting her head against me. The soft sensation barely touching my back added to the awkwardness. Stroking Pegasus's sleek white mane, I gave my command. A wise celestial horse, born as a divine beast, would surely understand my intent. Take us up, into the sky, but not high enough to reach Olympus. Nay, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Pegasus kicked off the ground and soared into the sky. The horse's pure white wings flapped powerfully, stirring the air. Whoosh! Upward, higher and higher. From a distance, I could see the nymphs watching us from the edge of a mountain. I waved my hand, shrouding us from mortal eyes, and spoke to Lady Styx, who was riding behind me. Riding through the sky on clouds or in a chariot isn't bad, but sometimes it's nice to ride a horse and feel the wind. I wanted to show you this view. Come to think of it, Hades, was this why you fought the Titan gods? Yes. More precisely, it was for the view from the peak of Olympus. This scenery is similar, so, nay, higher and higher we went, until the clouds floated beside us. Just a bit further, and we'd be at the height of Olympus itself. But since I had no intention of going to Olympus, I pulled the reins, and Pegasus slowed to a steady flight. Looking down, I saw vast plains and the cities of mortals appearing as countless tiny dots. I'm almost always in the underworld. I haven't seen such a view very often. The affairs of the underworld have stabilized considerably now, so you'll find time for things like this more often. Thank you. Perhaps it's because I'm with you, Hades, but I'm enjoying this excursion through the sky. When I glanced back, Lady Styx was leaning closely against me. Our eyes met, and she slowly closed hers. Anyone could tell what she desired in that moment. The red, delicate lips of the goddess. What would happen if I took this step forward? I halted Pegasus, who had been gliding smoothly through the sky, turned my head, and slowly moved closer. The sound of my heartbeat grew louder, even louder than Zeus's thunder. The noisy sounds of wind, birds, none of that reached my ears. My eyes and ears were focused solely on the goddess near me. I thought, breathing somewhat hurriedly, though the sound felt rough. I am a man, after all, and I do not dislike the goddesses who favor me. But could I truly make them happy? Not just one, but multiple goddesses? I knew. This hesitation, this fear, was nothing more than my own bias and insecurity. As I wrestled with this inner turmoil, an unmistakably artificial gust of wind blew. Whoosh! Wah! Pegasus wobbled, caught in the gust. Lady Styx, who had been closing her eyes, and I, who was hesitating, were both shaken. I gripped the reins with one hand to steady Pegasus, and with the other, I wrapped my arm around the waist of the goddess, who seemed unsteady. And then, because of the strong wind that had pushed us closer together, smooch! The soft sensation of her lips, the sweet scent of honey mixed with the fragrance of the goddess. A small accident in the sky had pushed me forward. The goddess, startled by the sudden movement, opened her eyes, unable to hide her growing surprise. I, too, had to hurriedly turn my head away, my face reddening. Whoosh! It was not difficult to guess who had conjured the sudden gust of wind. I could see a god flying off in the distance, giving me a thumbs up and nodding. It was Euros, god of the east wind, who brought warmth and rain. He was the son of Eos, the goddess of dawn, and in charge of the east wind. He must have passed by us on his way to bring the east wind to the world and decided to create an appropriate gust. Who made you the god of matchmaking? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. As we were about to head back, we encountered a messenger god flying nearby. Seeing us on Pegasus, Hermes spoke with a curious expression. Oh, isn't it Uncle Hades? And Lady Styx behind you. Hermes, what brings you to the sky? Ah, could it be that you were enjoying a pleasant time together? Oh dear, have I interrupted? Huh? Lady Styx and I remained silent. After all, I could still feel the moist, soft sensation lingering on my lips. Is it true? Enough nonsense. I'm giving you Pegasus's reins. Deliver him to that hero. What? Oh, thank you for lending Pegasus. Once you reach the ground, release Pegasus and find an appropriate place for him. I need to see if the hero destined to slay the Chimera can handle Pegasus. If he can hold onto the reins and stay atop the horse, then he's worthy enough. Understood. That was my plan too. But did something really happen between you two? Quiet. His perceptiveness after the brief but intense stroll in the sky. Having already handed Pegasus over to Hermes, I glanced back. Ah, Lady Styx still had her head bowed, unable to meet my eyes. Though she had approached me several times in the past, she seemed unsure of what to do when I took the initiative. I almost smiled at her endearing behavior, but my expression hardened at her hesitant voice. Hades, about that accident in the sky today. It wasn't an accident. What? Once again, I decided to take a step forward. I slowly moved closer to the beautiful goddess, and though she flinched, she did not pull away. Like in the sky, I gently placed my right hand around her waist and wrapped my left hand around the back of her head. This was my genuine expression to the goddess of oaths, who was now more beautiful than anyone. Embarrassment, courage, hesitation. My mind was filled with all kinds of emotions, but the smooth flow of my actions washed away all those thoughts. Smooch. This time, it wasn't the east wind pushed by Euros, but my own will entirely. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Bellerophon, born with great strength. He originally sought to become a hero and was headed for Thebes. But after accidentally killing his brother, he took refuge with Proetus, the king of Tyrants. However, the queen, Antiaea, tried to seduce him. Bellerophon, would you spend just one night with me? I'm sorry, my queen. Unable to betray his benefactor, Proetus, he coldly refused. But who could have predicted that the queen would lie in retaliation? Husband, Bellerophon tried to seduce me. He invited me into his room and made advances. What? That wretch. The king believed her words, but, adhering to the custom of hospitality that required a host to treat a guest well, he could not kill Bellerophon. Bellerophon, take this letter to my father-in-law, King Iobates. Yes, I understand. So King Proetus devised a plan. He wrote a letter to his father-in-law, Iobates, the king of Lycia, stating, "Please kill the one delivering this letter," and gave it to Bellerophon. His father-in-law would do the job of killing him. So, you brought a letter from my son-in-law. Yes, here it is. However, upon reading the letter, King Iobates was also reluctant to kill Bellerophon directly. Thus, King Iobates decided, Bellerophon, could you perhaps defeat the monster Chimera? Chimera? It's a troublesome beast that eats humans. This letter says you possess great strength and valor. If you succeed, I will give you my daughter Philono and pass on the throne of Lycia to you. Is that true? Then I will take up the challenge. He intended to have Bellerophon killed by the Chimera, a beast that was terrorizing the people in Lycia. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Leaving the palace of Lycia with great determination, Bellerophon faced uncertainty. He knew nothing about the whereabouts of the beast. Thinking he might not be able to handle the monster with his own strength, he headed for a nearby temple of Athena. Being naturally skilled in combat and strength, he hunted several deer and offered them as sacrifices to the goddess of wisdom, seeking an oracle. Goddess Athena, I must slay the monster chimera with my own strength. I pray for divine wisdom. The news of a mortal attempting to slay the chimera, a powerful monster born from Typhon, reached Olympus through Athena. The gods on Olympus were delighted at the prospect of a new hero rising. Typhon's offspring would be too much for an ordinary mortal. Only someone like Cadmus could stand a chance against Chimera, don't you think? Since it's a beast powerful enough to kill even most heroes, why not give him a bit of help? If we send Pegasus to a mere mortal? Besides, isn't Pegasus a creation of the goddess Medusa, belonging to the underworld? If we ask Lord Hades for permission, we could let the mortal attempt to tame Pegasus. So, we're saying to test if he's worthy of handling the divine horse. I agree. The conclusion of the gods' meeting was soon conveyed to the underworld, reaching Hades. Thus, Hermes received Pegasus from Hades, released him into the meadow, and Athena appeared in Bellerophon's dream as he rested. Take these reins and head to the nearest meadow. If you manage to put the reins on the winged horse Pegasus while he's asleep and hold on, the divine horse will become your strength. The winged horse, Pegasus. And as for the chimera's location, when Bellerophon awoke, he found himself holding reins adorned with golden decorations. Realizing that the dream was an oracle, he rushed to the nearest meadow and soon spotted Pegasus. The horse, whose entire body was covered in pure white wings, was grazing in the meadow as instructed by Hermes and had fallen sound asleep. Bellerophon carefully approached the divine beast from behind. The sleeping horse did not sense the hero's approach, and soon he successfully put the reins on the horse. Thud, snort, neigh, ugh, you're quite the rebellious one. With the reins on Pegasus, Bellerophon quickly climbed onto its back and attempted to tame it. He knew that only by fully exhausting the divine horse's resistance, which flapped its white wings wildly, could he be accepted as its master. Nay, flap whoosh. As the divine horse twisted its body in midair, Bellerophon held on with all his strength in his thighs and grip. Realizing it couldn't easily throw him off, Pegasus began flapping its wings and ascended into the sky. What? The clouds are beneath my feet. But do you think I'll give up on you just because of this? The fierce wind battered the mortal hero's body. The sky's view, unlike anything he had ever seen, weighed heavily on him. His only reliance was the golden reins given to him by the goddess Athena and his own strength. Once he had reached a certain altitude, Pegasus stopped flapping its wings and suddenly dove towards the ground. The divine horse folded its wings, plummeting as if intending to end its own life and that of the hero riding on its back. Whoosh! But Bellerophon did not let go of the reins until the end. Despite the fierce wind, the steep dive from the height above the clouds, and the imminent threat of death approaching in an instant, he held on with gritted teeth. Snort! Just before hitting the ground, as if admitting defeat, Pegasus spread its wings and glided. The hero, still gripping the reins behind the divine horse, sighed in relief and wiped his sweat. Unable to throw Bellerophon off, Pegasus finally landed gently on the ground, acknowledging him as its master. Now you don't run away even if I dismount. Thank you. With that, Bellerophon rode on the back of the divine horse and flew to the place where the chimera lived, as the goddess Athena had informed him. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Flying to the place Athena had mentioned, he found the massive beast, composed of 3 animals with a lion's head. Spotting the dreadful creature, Bellerophon, while still riding Pegasus, took out his bow and nocked an arrow. Whoosh! The fierce arrow, shot with all his might, flew towards the monster. Thud! What? The arrow bounced off immediately upon hitting the chimera's body. The chimera, a descendant of Typhon, had skin and muscles too thick for human strength to penetrate. Bellerophon then fired dozens of arrows, but none could even scratch the hide. The chimera roared as if mocking him, and spewed an intense flame from its mouth. The flames reached all the way to where Pegasus was hovering in the sky. Whoosh! Damn! Retreat for now, Pegasus. Bellerophon had no choice but to turn around and return to the village. This left only the furious Chimera alone. Growl! Alas, as Typhon's offspring, you are like a child to me, but you are fated to die by the hero's hands. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the earth. The Chimera, a monster with intelligence, was startled. What was this familiar feeling? Growl? Despite the Chimera's confusion, the voice continued. From all directions? No. It was a strange voice that pierced the monster's mind. You are destined to die at the hands of a mortal hero, but a prophecy should allow for the choice of how. Among its 3 heads, the goat head, which possessed twisted wisdom, whispered to the other heads. It said that this voice definitely felt similar to its parent, Typhon. I shall guide you. With these last words, the Chimera's eyes turned red, and it started running somewhere. Back at the nearby village, Bellerophon, pondering how to defeat the Chimera, thought of a clever plan and headed to a blacksmith. He suddenly approached the blacksmith, who was hammering steel, and requested a peculiar spear to be made. Make me a spear with a lead tip. Lead? What are you planning to do with such a thing? You can take it if I make it, right? Of course, I'll use it to kill the monster. With the heavy lead-tipped spear in hand, Bellerophon grinned in satisfaction. If he threw the spear into the monster's mouth while it breathed fire, the lead would melt, enter its stomach, and kill it. However, when he returned, the Chimera was nowhere to be found. Could it be that the monster hid, scared of a human? Or did he come to the wrong place? Bellerophon, panicking, searched everywhere, but could not find the Chimera. Then a voice reached him, a voice from the sky. Bellerophon, the Chimera, ran in this direction. Hurry! Above a bit farther off, there was a goddess fully armored standing on a cloud. She pointed in one direction with her spear, showing Bellerophon where the Chimera had fled. Thank you, O goddess whose name I do not know. I am Athena, goddess of wisdom. After thanking her, Bellerophon quickly mounted Pegasus and pursued the Chimera. Wait, but this direction, wasn't it towards Lycia?